Guess we'll get started here. 7:04. I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Planning Commission public meeting, February 17, 2021 to order. 7 p.m. or 7:04 p.m. Would everyone please stand and pledge the flag? Mr. Carnahan, would you lead us, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Heather Dessner.
Present.
Chuck Becker.
Here.
Jack Carroll.
Present.
John Foreman.
Present.
Richard Sharp.
Here.
Gary Wilkins.
Here.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
Donald Wolfen.
Here.
Here. David Austin.
Present.
Tim Kubiak. Jill Murr. Present.
Where's Tim? Is he zooming in?
He's in the other room, helping with an issue with our facilities.
Oh.
Oh, he's easy. Take some action on the plumbing?
Yeah.
In this
Okay, all
fine,
right.
in this
Okay.
fine establishment?
Yeah.
Leah Camilla. Absent. Sarah Mills here.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, December 2nd, 2020 work session, December 16th, 2020 public meeting, January 6th, 2021 special public meeting and work session, and January 20th, 2021 public meeting minutes. Does anybody have any concerns? Has anybody gotten to read all these?
I brushed through.
Okay.
You know.
All right,
I could not read them because there's a new style with the different fonts, and the fonts was so small, I couldn't even read them with a magnifying glass.
okay.
You
All
still using Windows 3.1, Bob?
No, it was different than what,
Your
were
computer?
printed. Like the font
They were
before
really
was
small.
12 and the font
Yeah.
looked like it might
All
be
right.
6.
And what we'll do is just skip over this and hopefully that can be rectified. I guess can we have to defer minutes?
Yeah, you
Defer
can
yeah.
defer minutes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I looked at the minutes also, and I think it bears some discussion. The format of the minutes that you're getting appear to be in a single line format block, pages upon pages upon page, no breaks. And it's an incredibly difficult read. Even, and I mean, I read minutes every day. I read from some public meeting somewhere. And my suggestion to you is that there be some review of that process and delivery to you internally at staff level, inclusive of perhaps even formatting the comments and participatory dialogue and discourse that you're having, so that there can be a breakout of what those minutes are saying for your record.
Are you?
I found it was in black form, and I thought I was reading the Bible. It was so
And you're
tight, so-
suggesting a modification even more so, you're suggesting a modification as opposed to even what we've seen 6 months ago.
I'm suggesting when you read page after page and there's no break and the minutes are just continuous, it's a continuous stream. That's a difficult read and it's a difficult memorialization of what happens. That's up to you. If you like it and you're good with it, that's up to you. But I know that this is a tough read and it's tough to locate. Chuck and I were talking about it, and before the meeting tonight, in anticipation of this, and he had to scroll search to find the commentary that he was looking for discussion purposes. So that's all I'm saying. When you read this, they're tough.
But keep in mind, we've got some changes going on with Rick's,
Right.
with Jill and
Yeah,
Michelle
we're
and
gonna- I'm
Tammy
gonna-
and Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to be asking for some explanations of that too, because I'm confused about many things. So, okay, well, would anybody like to make a motion to defer the voting on these minutes?
I'll
Chuck,
second it.
Second, first by Chuck, second by Heather. Vote call, please, to make a deferral on the motion.
Heather Dessner.
Yes.
Jack Becker.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
Richard Steve Sharp.
Yes.
John Kira.
Yes.
Gary Wilkins.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Update items, zoning ordinance amendments, Plan Commission rules and regulations. That's what this meeting was basically going to be. Mr. Eberly had asked that we be able to get started on this. We've all been talking about it, thinking about it, discussing it, emailing about it, and Mr. Eberly has some recommendations for modifications, some of which seem pretty logical to me. So I guess switching to that page, rules and regulations. Mr. Eberly, were you going to do a presentation of some kind, or what did you,
Yes, sir.
what did you want to, okay.
I'd just like to summarize the proposed changes, if I may.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah,
The rules and regulations, and by the way, everything's going to be in hard copy for you. I thought that would be easier for everybody to follow along. The rules and regulations are a document that David and I worked on when we were both with St. John. We like the format of what Dave's office prepared. There's, I think it makes it a little clearer in terms of operation of the commission. What we do for primary plat, secondary plat, rezoning, vacations, classifications, I should say, those types of things. I would say that the major issue here is, right now we require petitioners to advertise in 2 newspapers, and it is a 10-day notice. This just requires an advertisement in 1 newspaper as opposed to 2. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, most people don't get their information from the newspaper anymore anyway. Secondly, Cedar Lake is probably, David, I think the last town that, maybe the only town that puts the advertisement in the paper for the petitioners. We also go to county and we get the adjacent property owners list for the petitioners, that they can then, the petitioners can then send a letter out for. I don't want town staff having to do that.
so you're suggesting all public notices are taken care of by the petitioner?
They should be, yes.
Okay, so when they show up here and the green cards are asked for,
Yes.
they should have all those.
Yes.
And if they-
Actually,
They should be here before then,
They
actually.
should-
Well, that's my next question.
This would require they be here 5 days in advance of the meeting.
Well, I don't think, does anybody, go ahead, Chuck.
Who's gonna double check that?
Yes,
Okay, as long as someone's gonna check.
absolutely. They'll be brought back to the town hall for, like Michelle would check the DZAs, Jill would check the planning commissions, but we would also get them to Mr. Rocha to make sure that he can check the opposed as well.
Okay,
That's been your practice.
well, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, staff already spends too much time with petitioners. I guess the question is that going to be 5 business days, Monday through Friday, or is that 5 business days? How does that work?
Make sure that how.
So Rick, a person walks to that window, they say, hi, I bought a lot, I want to build a house, right?
Business days, yes.
They get a
Business day.
packet from us that describes this?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, we've got a packet, I've got a sample of a packet that would be given to a petitioner that it just describes the process, makes them aware that they are responsible for placing the notice in the newspaper. We would have a form, a template that is a fill in the blank form, so that they know what they're putting in the newspaper. And then we advise them that it has to publish at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. The notices have to be postmarked at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. And then we have to have those all the information we need back, we're supposed to have 5 business days in advance of that public hearing. Now, that's the reason why when Dave and I were in St. John, we increased the public notice from 10 days to 15 days. That gave more time to get the green cards back, the proof of publication back from the newspaper. St. John has now gone back to the days, which is the statutory requirement. We can, as a community, we can require that they give us, that they post those things more than 10 days in advance. We can't let them post it less than 10 days in advance because the state law says 10 days.
So to totally understand, I understand all that. Who contacts the petitioner if those cards, if they're not going to be on the agenda?
Well, that's a great question, Jerry, because
Because at some point, they're going to come to the podium and find out,
yes,
you know, we're sorry.
so when they bring those back to the town hall, Jill, for example, will go through those list of the green cards. And by the way, they get a white mailing receipt that proves when they sent the mailings out. In my view, that's more important than the green cards. You may never get the green cards back. Sometimes people don't sign for those and you don't get those back.
Okay.
So it's more important that we get the mailing receipts that prove when they mailed them and that they mailed them. So as long as we get those back, and then we can verify that, yes, they made the effort. If the letter never gets to the recipient, the petitioner can't be held responsible for that. That's the U.S. mail. If we never get the green card back, that's not the petitioner's issue, but the white mailing receipt is critical.
So the accountability is on the U.S. Postal Service.
Well,
For
we
the
need to be
green,
awfully careful about that. And I know of instances in my own office where it's taken 10 days to get a piece of mail from Lowell, Indiana, to Crown Point, Indiana,
That's because it's got to go to Indianapolis first.
because the U.S. Postal Service. And
Right.
the circumstances right now that are part of that process. It's none of our faults. It's
or the petitioner's fault. So
or the
that's why,
petitioner's fault.
right,
but-
that's why those mailing receipts are important. That shows.
So are
that-
we just telling them how to get to the GIS so they can learn?
No, they still have to, they have to get it,
the adjacent-
actually,
How do they get the addresses for the adjacent property owners if we
Jason's
don't do it?
property owners list is from the county.
the county. They can go to the county and
I see.
get that. They can go
Or
to,
GIS?
they can go to an engineer, they can go to an
Yeah.
attorney, or, no, they can't get it from GIS on their own.
Title company.
Title company, yes, but
So-
they can go to the county and get the list from the county. That's what we do for them right now,
And what office do they go to in the county?
the auditor's office.
That will be in the packet that they get.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to the county office or are we using GIS?
No, we go to the county
Is
office.
that right?
Yeah, and we have for
That's-
years.
that's-
We've done it for 30 years that I know of.
Wow.
That's
That's,
verified.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
needs, that
verified
needs,
Legal.
List.
Yeah.
That's the reason we
Right.
do that. You cannot rely
On
necessarily
GIS,
on the
Right.
GIS.
because it might
Right.
be 6 months old or a year old.
Yeah,
No.
you just don't know.
Fortunately, in our case here, we use just the adjacent property owners. In some communities, St. John uses 300-foot search area from the subject property that they have to notify these people. Schererville used to use 500. I don't know if they
It's
still do.
shorter now.
Is it shorter now? So again, the statute allows you as a community to determine who are interested parties and how they will be notified.
well, back to my question, who contacts the petitioner and says, we don't have everything, the white receipts,
Jill would in this case.
and say, sorry, we can't put you on the agenda? Okay, all right.
Well, the petitioner would have the white receipts, right? That's
They
what
would,
get
but when they
mail.
turn them in, Heather, if they're missing
Gotcha.
half of, because it's adjacent, the list isn't gonna be that long. But let's say there were 20 properties and they handed in 19 of the 20 and they missed one. Now, you can, and David, please correct me if I'm wrong, but you can waive any of the rules in your rules and regs. So you could say, you could find that in this case, 19 of the 20 were, they can prove they sent out. You could determine that to be substantial compliance with the rules and regulations, and you could allow the petition to go forward. Any
No,
thoughts
you
about?
can wait. You're permitted to waive irregularities. It's called irregularities in the statute. And most typically you would see, and I see it when I look at things over here, that property owners, there may be the same property owner for multiple lots, and one of them's missing. That owner got noticed because the other one showed that they got noticed.
Right.
So
Okay.
so when they are coming back in, they're bringing the list of the adjacent owners
Right.
and the white slips.
And white slips, yeah. Yeah, so they provide us with that so we can check that. And then again, and David, I don't know how, if you just want them the night of the meeting after we've checked them, you want them as much in advance as we can get them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so we'll work with Dave's office to get him that information, but the onus should be on the petitioner, not on town staff to go get that information and do those things.
No, this is all thumbs up for me.
I have a question though, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
St. John, you say the 300-foot radius, what have you. Is that because it's not contiguous property owners or surrounding property owners? Is that why they put that blue sign up? The blue and white sign that notices to people
Yeah,
driving by?
I was going to mention that to you, John. St. John does that, Dyer does that. I don't know if Cherville does that these days. But that is, again, is another thing that the community can require, another form of notice by the petitioner to
Highland
surrounding
does it.
property owners. Highland does it.
They take a picture of it, so they bring it in,
So you-
showing they posted it.
Right, and you can make them put that sign up in a conspicuous location on the property so that adjacent property owners anybody driving by can see it.
Well, that was part of what I was going to say. You're scaring me because, but that 300 feet rule, because we have tight quarters, because some of the tight quarters, some of these things are at the beginning of the tight quarters, perhaps that's something we should really think about. Not just adjacent property owners, but the people.
'Cause it
Two
could
door.
be, it could be 50 feet. Yeah.
I mean, let's just think about all the existing non-conforming.
And I've had people that when we've had stuff, they said, well, I didn't know about it. Why didn't I get notified?
And that's exactly right. And my phone's blowing up all the time
So
too.
does it-
That's why the sign, the sign thing may not be a bad idea.
So the petitioner then gets that sign from St. John because they look like they're the same size.
They are. St. John, in their case, St. John's Public Works Department makes all of their signs. The petitioner has to go to the Public Works Department to pick it up. They're responsible for putting it up. And then a staff person, in St. John's case, that was me. I would go out and verify that the sign was there. Or as David said, sometimes particularly when DVG was representing somebody, they would send me a picture as soon as they posted it and time and date stamp that here's where I put the sign. I would still go out at some point in time and verify it, but I wouldn't necessarily have to be out there 10 days in advance or 15 days in advance, whatever the rule.
That way, in
is.
case somebody stole it.
Yeah, because that's happened, John. Yeah,
Yeah, for
we've had cases where people have put up the sign, somebody stole it, and then that's not on the petitioner. If they can prove it.
You know, I would hate.
I'm thinking, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I would hate to take the premise of doing this where the petitioner does the mailings, for example, takes work now away from our staff, which I think is great. But I hate to then put that work back on Public Works or somebody else having to go verify the signs or print the signs or make the signs. So it's almost like a wash. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
We're trying to do this to make,
Yes, but how many
That's-
signs do you need? 10 signs? They just keep
I'm not-
recycling them.
They
yeah,
do.
they're recycled.
They do. The
So-
dates of the meetings are changeable.
Do they pay for the signs or is that something?
That's free. In St. John's case, that's free.
Well,
Now, Dyer uses them too. I don't know who they.
Do we
get
give
to-
them post amount?
No,
There's a deposit in some places.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
Well,
deposit amount you get back when you return.
there's been a lot of money spent on new street signs because they
Yep.
look nice.
Yep.
So what's 10 signs? or
Right.
Whatever. That also will eliminate what most people don't see on social media about what's going on here, what's going on there. However, that sign does light up the phone over here then.
Sure.
So I mean, there's a boomerang here for everybody.
But we could just read the sign, St. John's case typically says public hearing.
It's real
March
vague.
3rd.
It's not real descriptive. no.
Yeah, it's not very
It just says
descriptive.
public
So-
hearing, March 3rd,
So
St. John Town.
So it could create more work, you're right.
yeah, so with your experience, does a sign create jamming up the phone lines?
Oh, sure.
Sure, it will.
So,
Jerry.
so are we getting rid of one problem and creating another problem?
Well, we're going to spend more time answering calls and letting people know what the sign is there for.
Could the
Yeah.
sign, could the sign have information thorough enough?
They're not
That
gonna
they-
read it.
Yeah,
Because you're gonna reuse it constantly.
yeah, it's.
Yeah, but
I'll
but
tell
they
you,
said,
Jerry,
they said the information, the addresses are interchangeable.
it is, but the sign is meant to be read from as you're driving past it. So
Okay.
there can't be a lot of detail.
Public meeting.
St. John's sign is this tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah, it's I think it's 3 by 4. but
Yeah,
close.
there's one, yeah, there's a new one on Parish Avenue right now.
Yeah,
Well-
yes.
They
Yes,
must be getting rid of
Just
that
south
house.
of, just south of.
What
Family
is the-
Express.
231,
So-
yeah.
What is
hold
the
on, hold
plus, what is the plus side of the sign? Why, I mean,
Just that it notifies more people perhaps than the letters do, especially if you're mailing to adjacent property owners only. Then the sign being out there in front of this property, everybody who drives by it sees it. So it's just more notice.
So the 300-foot rule
I like that.
would save phone calls, cost of the sign, all those other things.
If you want to go to, you could do that in lieu of, or some what I'm saying is you
Yeah.
have the ability as the local municipality to determine who interested parties are and how they're to be informed, except for the fact that it's got to be in the newspaper, at least one paper 10 days in advance. That's
It's the 300-foot rule though.
That's true, but
Jerry,
remember,
complicated. It's
in response to John's question, what's the upside, what's the downside? Two questions, really. The upside is you're giving your citizens notice, real notice. How many of you in this room read the classifieds every day? I mean, every day.
none.
Nobody.
right.
I do.
Yeah.
Few people do.
Few people. Yeah.
Few people. And so it's legal notice, and they're getting ready to change it. One of the prospective laws down in Indianapolis this session is to get rid of
The newspaper?
Yeah, it's hot too.
Yeah.
It's hot. There's fire going on down there, among other things. But
So-
it's to give, I'm sorry, Jerry, it's
That's
to
okay.
give real notice, John. So people see something's happening, so they pick up the phone, they call our staff. That's why we have staff. They want to know what's going on, they come to a meeting. That's why we invite them to our meetings.
Some of the,
That's the plus.
Right, but
to
some
it.
of the
And
staff
there's no
has-
downside to due process. None.
some of the staff has 2 telephones and it's on each ear. So, just answering that
So fair.
really seems like not a great idea. So if you have existing non-conforming,
They should be able to call our government, shouldn't they? They should be able to call our servants.
they should, but it's like trying to call the police department without calling 911.
Okay.
Uh,
It's your call.
So the 300-foot rule seems logical to me in a lot of ways. But if there's an HOA, especially in an existing non-conforming situation, because there's plenty of those, should the HOA in totality be notified?
They would get a notice if they were listed as a property owner and they were within the search area, they would, yes.
They're not gonna be on that list though.
Well, if they have common property, Heather, they may, if the property's owned in common by the HOA, they may get a letter.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that happen, but
Yeah,
it depends on how they own
The
property.
likelihood
Yeah.
is super, super small, and I agree with what you're saying.
So back to your experience with these signs. Are you talking about having to hire a part-time person just to answer the phone and answer all these questions? Because when people call about that, they're going to have a million questions because they're not going to want to come over here for the public hearing.
Well, but the answer is short. The answer is short. Here's what they're petitioning
Mhm.
for. That's all the information they really have. Come
Yeah.
to the meeting.
I understand, but people, well, and that may be the direction. Is that what the direction is?
I tell you, oftentimes, Jerry, is what it does is it answers the question for that particular party, and it satisfies them to the point where they don't need to come to the meeting. Or the converse can be true as well. They okay, this is important. I think I need to be there. But oftentimes it's just, in the case of a fence on a through lot, or is it Lindsway that we have those?
No.
But somebody sees a sign in somebody's backyard on Parish and says, okay, what's this about? And they call the town hall and we say we're wanting a rear yard fence variance. Oh, okay. I'm not going to bother going to the meeting for that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, with your experience, 10 being Great. Putting those signs up will be where? On a scale of 1 to 10 for headaches over here.
Oh, probably a 5 or 6. Yeah, I think we're okay. I think I would be okay answering a phone call like that. It's, as Heather said, it's usually a pretty quick conversation that, yes, it's a
Okay.
side yard setback variance. It's a rear yard setback variance.
So,
it's a
so
height-
if do the 300 feet, so the clerks at the county have the ability to measure 300
Oh, yeah.
feet?
You can do that on GIS now. You just select a.
Right.
a-
So then they are in fact using GIS probably.
Oh, they are using, county's using GIS, but the onus is on them to come up with the accurate list, not us.
And you get the certification.
From them.
That's the reason for the
Okay.
count, using the county,
Right.
they're certifying it.
And again, an engineer can do it, an attorney can do it, a
Well, I
title
would
company
say
can do
if
it.
we went without a sign, I like the 300 feet. If we go with adjacent property owners, then we do the sign. That would be my 2 cents. I don't think we need to do 300 feet and the sign. Because like you say, Jerry, let's use the corner of US 41 and 133rd. Somebody who's gonna buy all them houses, bulldoze it, and put a Speedway gas station, for example. Okay? That corner would be well suited for a sign. So my next question is, do they ever do it where it's just for commercial, not
I was
residential?
just gonna say that, John. In fact, in Dyer, it was, for a time, it was residential properties were immediately adjacent notice only, and commercial was 300 feet.
Got it.
Yeah.
I like
And you
that.
can use, but you can, I just want you to know, you're free to, you could go 100 feet residential and 500 feet commercial. You have a lot of flexibility there, but you could go immediately adjacent only for residential, and you could go 300 feet for commercial, if that's what you wanted to do.
And Speedway doesn't,
I just made it up, Bob.
7-Eleven now owns Speedway.
Yeah, I just made it up. It was a complete analogy.
The simplisticness of this, though, is to give it a number.
Coffee there, Bob?
What?
Get
We
your
give
coffee
it,
there?
we give it 300, we give it a number, and when we
I
move
just
on.
watched the-
Now,
Do you have either in this thing?
hang on.
I don't have the sign or 300 in here. I didn't propose a change to the notice area.
So if we tried 300 feet, or we tried a sign,
Mhm.
can we go back? Can we switch to the other thing in 6 months or a year, or what's
You just
the?
amend your rules.
This commission can do
Anytime.
whatever we want.
You just amend.
What?
Up to the
The
order.
commission is
We
the
We can do
commission.
whatever we, did you hear what he said?
Please keep in mind that we're going to propose this same thing to the BZA, and I'd like to make them uniform. I wouldn't want to see the plan commission.
Oh, it'll be uniform, guaranteed,
Okay.
guaranteed.
I wouldn't want to see the plan commission use 300 foot and the BZA use adjacent. I think it should be uniform for both, but
I would agree.
I think the sign creates some phone calls, but it also creates a lot of clarity. It also doesn't create a lot of chaos on social media sites.
Signs
Yeah.
everywhere, signs.
Sorry, Jill.
No, I was gonna agree with what you're saying about a sign. I think sign increases the transparency on a public hearing. And with social media, if someone can answer the question correctly because they called us, that could eliminate 20 or 25 phone calls.
Or they all say, call Jill at the town hall, she'll explain it to you.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
That-
Now,
see-
the-
See, that would be good, Rick.
Or we could
Call
refer
Jill.
to our website, you
The-
know. if
You can
we
put that on the
post
sign.
notice.
Call Jill.
Well, yeah, and Jill, that's a good point though. Are those notices posted?
We can,
I mean,
that's
that would,
something we can develop.
That
You
would
know,
only
now
be-
that the minutes are posted online.
Yeah.
We have started posting, for BZA, the public hearing packets when we were doing those via Zoom, so people can see the meeting packets. We could make that one of our.
One of your forms of notice.
Requirements is
Yeah.
that notice has.
And that would, and that
But
would,
that's on us. That's
That
not
would
on,
be-
right, but that would also alleviate a
website.
bunch of phone calls.
It could.
potentially, yeah. Yeah.
people like to go on the internet before they like to talk to someone. Want to
Yeah.
talk to someone.
Well, they want to get all the facts before they call over here.
Right, and
Yeah, okay.
And just as I was transitioning over here, St. John was doing that. They were starting to put their public hearing or their notices of the public hearings on their website so people would be aware of it.
I think that's
Yeah.
a great idea.
And I would say, it's gonna take, it would probably take a year, honestly, as you go through different areas of our community for people to notice if you put signage out, putting it on our website, because if I live over here and there's never a sign put up, I might not really pay attention to it, but once it affects my area,
Right.
By the
Yeah.
time
Yes.
communication gets around,
But-
they'll
but-
start referring to our website.
But the response to the sign by the people who live close would be instant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So sign
So-
instead of
Certified letter.
anything more
I
than
like-
adjacent?
Hang on.
I said
Just for fun, Heather, you like the sign or you like the 300 feet?
Well, I like them both for completely different reasons. I don't think we should do both, though. I
No,
mean, that's
so
crazy
you
work.
have two
Yeah,
apples,
right.
Heather. Which one is it?
The sign.
The sign.
The
Chuck?
Oh,
No,
Yeah,
that's
pick
not the
one, Chuck.
question. You have to pick one.
you said, which one? I
You
like?
have
I
two
like them both.
apples. You have two apples. You can't like which one do you
Why not? You
like?
can buy the
He
beets.
could
One,
like both
one.
of them.
I like both.
Okay, let me come back to
All
Chuck.
right,
John?
But here, my question is, when you send out a notice, it explains that there's gonna be a meeting because he wants a fence.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
On a sign, it'll just say there's gonna be a meeting.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so to me, you get more information by sending out that notice,
The notice is more descriptive.
because now the person who gets it within just use 300 feet is aware of that he's gonna put up a
Well,
fence.
I thought we were talking about.
You know, now, if you just put the sign up, it just says there's a meeting. Now he has no clue of what the meeting's for.
Yeah,
But-
he
but
calls
he-
the town or
but he
checks the
could-
website.
But at least he could call somewhere and get the facts. Or she.
That's fine. I'm just trying to weigh
Mhm.
this against that,
Yeah, I got you.
you know? And I like the sign for the reason is not only within just use 300 feet, people know what's going on, but if you're just driving through the neighborhood, you can see that there's some sort of construction
Well,
is going to go on or in this area, even though you don't live there,
Okay.
which is good to know how your community is growing.
well, that's exactly right. I'll use Cedar Point Park, for example. Down at the end, somebody wants to do something. Where do you put the sign? Do you put the sign out on Morse? Do you put the sign,
So it's got to go in the property owner's yard.
got to go in the property owner's yard, so then nobody sees it.
I like this.
Right.
My sense is a hybrid. I like the sign for commercial and I like adjacent for residential. No sign. Just seems because no one's gonna drive in the back of Cedar Point.
Then there should be a difference, and we can't just do adjacent anymore, and Jerry's right. We have 25-foot frontage on some of these places.
Mhm.
So one property owner's being notified. I mean, it should be,
Well, that would be the case in adjacency, that's going to be the case, I would think, with anything, wouldn't it, Heather?
right now, correct, but in
Yeah.
Cedar Lake, because of our property, I think that we should make it 300. It shouldn't be just
Right.
adjacent. It should be
But-
150.
Right.
300 residential and a sign for commercial. Who's on there? Don?
Yeah, I mean, keep inside, you bring up Cedar Point Park when you have 50-foot frontages. If you do 300 feet in Cedar Point Park, you're gonna have to notify upwards of, 15 people for, say, a side yard setback variance. I think it's a little excessive.
Right.
So I don't know. My own personal opinion, I like John's hybrid idea.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to make sure you're aware of. Now, let's just go back to the newspaper notice and assume that it stays in the state law, Dave, that they have to use a newspaper. The town putting it in the newspaper, we get a great rate, $20.
It's a fraction.
It's something like $20 for the same ad that a private party would put in there would run about $175. The notices, the letters that go out, because of the way they're mailed, certified, return receipt requested, run about $7 a pop. So Don's right. The more dense the development, you go out 300 feet in an area that's got 50-foot wide lots, you got 15 or more property owners. You got $100 in just in the letter.
And I don't, yes, and that's, well, and I don't disagree with Don. However, we'll use Cedar Point Park for an example again. Somebody down on the end, I call it down on the end, anything they do halfway to the end affects half the people. So the effects of what somebody may or may not get to do is going to affect a lot of people. So yeah, the mailing's more, but you're affecting more people. Potentially.
Well, this is America. I own land, you own land, he owns land, she owns land. It's my land, it's your land. If you
You're
want
just
to put
renting
up
it,
a
you can't
fence,
take it with you.
if you want to put up a fence, why do I care what neighbors 5 stories down need to worry about? If
We're
the
not
state-
talking about a fence. We're talking
No.
about a 3-story home with a salt box roof.
That's fine.
Squeezed on a little lot over
Doesn't
there.
matter. It's my lot. I'm going through the variance process at the town. The guy next door to me on all sides of me gets noticed. If he or she care about the letter that has lots of detail and telling their neighbor, and or if those folks want to look online and if we're gonna be posting this, like you said,
Well,
and then for commercial, put a sign,
so Cedar Point,
adjacent and a sign.
Just regular permits or just, you know?
Anything that needs a variance or a public hearing, anything that needs a public hearing is what we're
Okay,
talking
so
about.
fences would.
Well, if
Well,
there's a
they
variance.
could, yeah, they
They
could.
could, yeah. Well, I was thinking, what about landlords? There's a lot of people, you know, that rent properties out here, once. Okay, someone, where I used to live, my house.
Mhm.
Someone goes down the street, affect my property, but yet, how am I gonna know? If,
Because the landlord got the letter,
right, how you know if the landlord gets the letter, not the tenant?
It
Yeah,
goes
the
to the
landlord
owner.
will get the letter.
It goes to the owner.
Goes
Yeah.
to the owner of the
Property owner.
so,
If I may.
yeah, go
we
ahead.
could Go for 6 hours on this.
We,
Let
we,
me just ask a question.
We gotta get started on it, Heather.
Agreed, but we are started on it now. Wouldn't it make more sense to maybe let it fester, ask for neighbors, talk to some other people in the town and reevaluate this in a week or
I-
whatever it is?
yes,
we don't
I-
need to
I'm just
design
trying,
it tonight.
yeah,
I agree.
I just, I'm trying to get the caveats out here. And I'm gonna use Cedar Point Park again. We're talking about a house, we're talking about halfway in. As the houses that are going on down there now. The street side, I'm gonna call it.
Yeah,
Somebody wants to get closer to the road. Well, somebody 400 feet away is affected by that. And yeah, do they need to know?
Does St. John
Maybe,
have both?
maybe, hang on.
Does St. John have both?
Both,
Sign in the
Yes.
notice?
yes, sir.
They do?
But it's commercial and residential.
No, that's in Dyer. St. John requires all petitioners to send a letter to all properties within 300 feet and post a sign on their property.
but St. John's mostly R1, guys. It's a lot bigger, or
Big-
there are
bigger
two, a
lot,
lot bigger
yeah.
lots.
Well, that's-
And I will tell you that when I meet with particularly, I guess my heart goes out to a residential property owner who comes in for a side yard setback. But I'll tell them, look, you could easily spend $500 going after this variance and you could get turned down. I want you to know, I always tell them, I want you to know, just because you come here and ask, that doesn't mean you're getting it.
And that's what I was gonna get at was their intentions.
That
are-
deters a
are-
lot of people, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in one sense, that gets rid of maybe some frivolous requests that would otherwise bog down your agendas. But on the other hand, if it's a legitimate request, just keep that in mind. That's one thing for a commercial developer who's coming in here and gonna
Yeah, somebody comes in, there's a commitment by them. before
time
this.
and
So, time and money. So
Time and money.
perhaps they'll be serious and thorough.
Like the guy that came in and wanted to put a swimming pool in, and they were denied, and on his way out, he was calling everybody.
Yeah, that was Crystal Oaks. That was Crystal
Well,
Oaks.
that
Bob.
happened, yeah, Lynn's Way too, with the power line was underneath where we wanted to put the pool.
But when Jill meets with a potential petitioner like that, she'll make it clear to them that regardless of what we do here, if somebody comes for a variance or any public hearing action, they're not guaranteed they're going to get it when they come before you, whether it's BZA or Plan Commission. They need to know that this is a commitment, $400 or $500.
This is a level of
So you
investment.
just came, so Dyer does what again?
Dyer did immediately adjacent notices for residential variances, BZA petitioners,
Mhm.
and a 300-foot search for commercial.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And a sign.
No, well, when I was there, they didn't have the sign. After I'd left, they
gotcha.
started using the sign.
Okay.
I don't know where they get those, if they send somebody to a printer to get those. I can tell you St. John made the sign for the petitioners at no cost.
So St. John does the sign and adjacent,
300,
sign in 300.
300.
Okay, any situation in Cedar Point Park, for example, that would almost notify everybody, wouldn't it?
I thought you said
You- you see it, you
residential
call
was
me-
adjacent, commercial is 300.
Dyer's that way. John.
Right.
Yeah, not St. John requires the letters to go out in a 300-foot
Oh, St. John does that.
and the sign. Dyer does adjacent, at least when I was there and just
Right.
after I left. It could have changed by now, but
I mean, these almost sometimes, when you think about it, it seems like unreasonable expectations to a petitioner or a property owner, but it does create a very high level of commitment.
it does.
When you're gonna step into it, you're stepping into it.
Right now, petitioner comes in.
Oh, let's not go there.
Right now, a petitioner comes in and the town does have to work for them. And it costs them next to nothing. Now, I do believe we wind up billing, we bill them for the
That's another-
advertising.
Yeah, that's another time. On the advertising, we do develop a billing on the back end of that as well. So we're
Yeah.
collecting the money.
But we
from
do it
it.
even for a residential BZA applicant. So they'll pay for
Anything that needs to be advertised.
they'll pay for the notice, but it's $20.
And you have to
Our
pay
cost.
before you get your permit. That's how it works here.
If they go get it themselves, it's gonna cost them $175 for.
Yeah. You know, and there's a certain, and we're gonna move on, I promise. If you're into that level of commitment, perhaps you don't want to invest the time and take a chance on doing it incorrectly. So you may hire somebody who will do it correctly.
Yep.
Which is good for everybody.
What about asking the two people what they think out here?
Public comment?
No, I just want to go to them and see what they think.
Okay, well, I guess we can do that. Mr. Everly, would you step aside? Does either you gentlemen have any comments on any of these things? Any thoughts, any comments?
A lot of thoughts, a lot of comments, but just still trying to.
No, I meant relative to what Mr. Everly's talking about. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I see both sides with the signs and,
Yeah.
the difference between commercial and residential. But I've sat through a lot of meetings where, somebody comes in and wants to remonstrate against somebody building a house on a vacant lot that's 200 feet away from a lake that now it's going to disrupt their view. So what happens with a case like that? Because to me, it's like, then buy the lot so you don't put something up.
Well, you're absolutely right, and we hear a lot of those, and I'm gonna go back to the existing non-conforming on the east side of the lake and the west side of the lake. And we have to take all those things into consideration. There's been deferrals for things, and as I've alluded to Mr. Eberly in some of my emails that were constructive, the issue sometimes we have at the BZA is not between the BZA and the petitioner, but between the petitioner and their neighbors. So, in this existing non-conforming, I can't think of a place where 300 feet and a sign would not be in upwards of 80% for passersby. And
I'm okay with a sign in residential also, but not 300 feet. That's a lot of money in mailings. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of nonsense for a
well,
PZA.
but we're talking about
Yeah.
existing non-conforming, and
Yeah.
when you're talking about,
Well, we
when
need
you're-
to be, for that subdivision, we need to be talking about a geographical overlay of a cottage district
we're gonna
with rules. It'll wipe out all
We're
those.
gonna,
concerns,
we're gonna get to a piece of that. However, side yards that are supposed to be 8 feet,
Right?
somebody's gonna ask for 6. You make it 4, they're gonna ask for
We
3.
need the
you're
the
gonna make-
template, the conference grounds is doing. It's a pretty smart idea what they're trying to do.
Yes, but let's, what the ministry is proposing is not what we were told we were gonna get a year ago.
Okay.
It's different. So what they're proposing is existing
I'm
non-conforming.
just saying that type of a overlay makes a lot of sense for the Cedar Point Parks and everything. I just think 300 feet for those small subdivisions with 50-foot lots and houses that once were cottage
Well, we're
homes.
not gonna make that
Is
decision
extreme.
tonight.
No,
No,
well,
right.
we
So like Heather said,
I'm with you. Sleep on it.
let's move on.
I think if a town, another town has had success with that dynamic.
Yep.
Knowing that there's not a lot of existing non-conforming.
But I think St. John probably did that, Jerry, quite honestly, because they have a lot of R1 and R2 good sized lots. So 300
Right.
feet makes more sense because now 4 neighbors can do it. Because in my case, 300 feet, almost nobody would get a letter. See what I'm saying?
Why,
I got 300 feet between me and my aunt, 300 feet between my brother and I. So therefore, they wouldn't even qualify. So in my case, I don't have to do a letter. In the case of Cedar Point Park, that poor guy has to do 14 of them.
So you'd be an overlay in 500 feet.
You know what I'm saying? Right. But the point is we have my house and property is more like a St. John house and property. So the larger distance might make sense. There.
right, except the
Whereas Cedar
sign,
Point Park
but
doesn't.
a sign in your front yard
Sure.
would notify
Yeah.
thousands of people. a
I
week.
like adjacent. Keep it. I'm thinking about the homeowner and the person just trying to improve his property. I don't like to make
Okay.
somebody spend more money than they
Let's
need
see
to.
if this other gentleman would like to say anything.
I like what John said about adjacent. And then
Which John?
You and I.
I can't see your name like in yours.
You're,
So yeah, but like Heather said, I agree. We can sleep on it.
Okay.
Bring it up again.
all right. Okay, let's move on from that. We'll have to contemplate that a little bit.
We made it into one sentence.
Well, that was really the biggest issue
Okay,
in the rules and regs.
Good.
You know, it certainly, you know, it talks about the operation of the meeting, but you already were following certain rules and who takes over if you're not here, you know, the vice serves in your place. So you've got a copy of these and
Yeah.
we can put this on a future agenda for action on them. But I like the work that Dave and his office did on them when we collaborated on these in St. John in 2017.
Well, I don't think anybody has any issues with anything other than what we're gonna do about the notification part of,
Notification. Yeah.
notification part, so.
But
Yeah,
I-
I mean,
Well,
I'd
I-
like to revisit this sooner rather than later, though. Can we just get it
Sure.
on an agenda
It
and?
can be on the next agenda if you like.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
there's no sense in waiting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want it on the next agenda?
Well, the next agenda is your work session.
Work
So the
session.
next official meeting, you want it on the.
No, we need to be on work session too.
Well, I think we need
Before
to
action.
adopt this document. And then in this document, that would exist, right?
I'm sorry, say that.
What we really want to put it in this document and then adopt the document.
Okay, yeah, so
That would be
continue
the
this
logical
discussion at the
thing.
work session and then put it on the March agenda for March
Whatever it
16th,
is, yeah.
17th agenda
Approval.
for action.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think though, as we corresponded in part, the things that are gonna stay the same are gonna stay the same. You're just hitting on the things that you're thinking modifications would be beneficial, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
So you're here under election of officers, you have president, vice president, and secretary. We don't need a secretary, right?
Well, you can.
You do.
Can't, yeah.
And an
For signing
official- an
documents.
Official sign. You got a recording secretary, you got a staff member doing it. This is in the event of something legal coming up.
Right. So when you sign plats, for example, the president of the plan commission and the executive secretary of the plan commission sign those plats.
So
And-
we
and-
need to elect the secretary?
Yes, it should be, I believe the statute calls it out, Dave, executive secretary. Yeah, executive secretary is an office that you should have as a plan commission, yes. Yeah,
So president, vice president, and executive secretary.
yes, sir. And then that would be in the case where if the president and vice president couldn't make a meeting, then the executive secretary would,
The person lives closest in case there's a signature needed.
that is correct. The person who's most,
Not that somebody
Available.
won't run documents to wherever the signature
Yeah.
is needed, but you know,
but that is a good point, Jerry. Whoever's the most available is a good person to have as your executive secretary. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
okay. You done with that, John?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's my question.
Just the gentleman who walked out of here before, where does he live? I'm curious as to where his background, where his
I don't know
adjacent.
who he was. Did we get his name?
No, he didn't get his name or anything.
He'll be back.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right,
it's
all right.
close
He must be here for public comment or something, Jerry.
Yeah, it could be. Does anybody not know who Richie Keel is? Okay.
No,
all right.
we all know.
Who
him.
doesn't know?
He's like our plan commission mascot. I like that you're always here. I think it's
more meetings than anybody else.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, there's no attendance issue with Mr. Teal.
Executive secretary.
And Mr. President, if you want to alter the agenda and let these gentlemen make comments first before we go into the zoning.
Oh, that's fine. Sir, you made mention, you said you like John's idea. I have to ask, your name and address, if you would.
Yeah, my name's Rick Locasco, and I live at 9142 Maple Drive.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. I was,
Oh, okay.
and you like I'm just curious, you like the adjacent for residential and sign for commercial?
Well, I think what Mr. Foreman was saying was, if I understood it correctly, a sign and the adjacent for the residential. Isn't that
Or
right?
sign and the residential?
Yeah, I'd switch to that because of the little lots.
Yeah,
I
got
to save the
you. For
homeowner
the-
some cash.
Okay, okay. All right. I would,
Are we going over these items tonight or?
Yes, sir. I'll make that as quick as I can. I just thought. that
Yeah.
hear from you gentlemen.
Yep. I'm gonna jump right to, unless anybody has anything else, I want to jump right to any public comment from the audience. Is any public comment, Mr. Teal? Anything really burning inside? No? Okay, all right. Mr. Lacosto, anything you'd like to, sure, come out to the podium here. Yeah. State your name and address for the record again, and we'll do public comment now. That way you can
Okay.
have
We're
some
not wasting your
normalcy.
time.
Sure, thank you. Again, I'm Rick Lacosto. I live in St. John, 9142 Maple Drive. And I've been in conversations with the owner of the Reunity property down here at it's 14908 Morse. It's 10.5 acres of it's basically, I think it's agricultural land right now. I think it's zoned R2. During those conversations with her attorney, I'm trying to get information on the utilities, site utilities, water and sanitary. And I'm not getting a lot of clear information from them. So what they did is they forwarded to me some old meeting minutes. And so I have some minutes here. This is from a work session.
Do you have the property owner's name? Because it's.
Yes, it's Brenda Roberts.
Okay, all right, that helps. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah, you're right. Directly south of the Gulf.
okay.
But I've met with her down there a couple times, but I'm really dealing with her attorney on a lot of.
And
this
that's
stuff.
that long rectangular piece of property just south of the existing golf course.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And
All
then
right.
there's county, I believe she sold 135 acres.
150 acres.
To the-
for Lake
To the south,
County.
to the south of
and
her
west.
home.
Well, to the south of the little parcel that I'm looking at.
Okay.
And
all
she lives on that.
Right. Gotcha.
Parcel too.
Mhm.
So anyway, so they can't really give me any definitive information on the water supply. So what I'm seeing in these minutes, and I've got minutes from a work session dated March 6th of 2019. And at that time, it looks like there was a developer out there, Lighthouse Development, who
Yes, sir.
was interested and actually had a contingent deal on the property. And when I look at, so there's that meeting, and then there's an actual plan commission meeting from May 15th of 19. And during that meeting, it looked like there were three options that were kind of tossed around in terms of possibilities for a water service.
Okay.
One was a community well,
Yes.
two was individual wells, and then it looks like the third one was the possibility of extending a main. I don't know if it was down more, so I'm not sure where that main would be coming from. So I was wondering if, and I'm guessing it was never determined, because the property's still for sale. So I'm just wondering.
And I'm going to jump into my memory here, and anybody can stop me, correct me, throw something at me if you want. I believe the community well was financially not feasible to the developer. I think there was also some discussions of the community well becoming the town's buying it in the future, whatever that term is. And the, I don't remember what the individual well situation was about, but the guy from Lifehouse, I think he decided that the water was his breaking point.
I think they wanted
So,
$10,000 a lot for the well.
okay,
And
I
then they
think it's
wanted,
fairly well.
yeah,
and they wanted, somewhere around 90,000 or 100,000 to put in the water tank, or what was it? And almost a water, for a little bit more for
yeah,
the water tank.
and he wasn't doing 10,000 square foot lots either. I think he
He
was
wanted
doing
to do-
something a little smaller.
Right. According to this, he wanted to do 30, he wanted to do cottage homes there. So it was 30 lots. Yeah, they were small, 65 wide by 150.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they were.
So I would like to do, I would like to try and get 24 lots on it. And the lots would then be probably around 100 feet wide.
Well, that certainly puts us into 10,000 plus.
Right.
And you guys who know for sure, the closest municipal water to that property is where?
Robin's.
Robin's Nest.
133rd and Morse.
Yeah.
That's a
East
long
of the
way.
liquor store.
That's a long way.
That's a long way. So my only suggestion to you, since you're doing your homework, is to figure out how you would do a, I don't know, community well, two wells, a tank, and I don't know what the town's position would be on that for acquiring it in the future or whatever, because there's plenty of municipal wells for HOAs around the lake here.
Would the commission consider individual wells? Would the lots be big enough to do individual wells on in terms of the spacing of those?
On 100-foot lot, again, I think that was the problem with Lighthouse because they were so small. We were doing the math on where a well would sit as opposed to its neighbor.
Yeah, there was the lot size changed everything over
Yeah.
there.
I think eventually, though, we were thinking along the lines of having a community well that we could, because we need water on the east side of the lake. And so we were thinking the community well, so that eventually the town could take it over and start bringing water to that side.
And use it for auxiliary for everybody.
Right.
I think that was one of the big hangups with us for individual wells.
I think
There is a substantial water initiative though at the town council utility board level related to water supply, water extension, water acquisition. Right now, serious negotiation is coming to a close. So we think we'll find a water supply on North Street. We also know there's a water supply on South Shore at the golf course. So it's not presently used in this fashion.
Yeah, we had hit on not too far from that property. Mr. Lacosto got it to the west and to the north. There's a huge well on private property down in the bottom, back by the golf course, back in there. But for him to do his homework, right now, it would be just wells or something, or a community well that the town would acquire, right?
Yeah, and it's such an Achilles heel, the water supply issue. My neighborhood is right now removing themselves from a community well.
And going to individual.
You're going to individual because the community supply is not working. The system is dilapidated and it's coming apart. There's probably 40 some homes plus minus that are converting over a short period of time here in the next year or two. So we know the experiment with that. Of course, that was done in the late 40s. That supply and 1-inch lines and all the stuff that today would not be done.
But I thought the guy from Lighthouse said he would need to do all those homes. He would need, and for redundancy, he would need 2 10-inch wells.
I think it says 8 in here.
Two 8s.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. They were bigger than what you would get for your house, certainly.
Right.
You know, but if the town were to acquire that in the future, what's the phrase for buying something back?
Eminent domain.
Recapture agreement.
Who?
Recapture agreement?
Yeah, yes, recapture agreement.
Well, that's about money.
Yeah.
That's not about the infrastructure
Yeah.
itself.
So
Hey, Jerry, I think the issue was that, and I think even Greg was pushing this back then, is that, in order to grow your water utility, there's got to be some point to say, no more private
Yeah.
wells. Right? It's where the community wells started popping up. And then, that to go along with that, you would need, water mains and all that. And I think it just overpriced life out.
Yeah. I understand. This gentleman's wanting to do his homework, and if a community well is not probable, an individual wells is not probable, he's a long way from water.
Well, Jerry, if I may, this was 2 years ago Lighthouse was here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we haven't made any progress.
That's correct.
So I'm with you. I would hate to just say, no, there's no options. There has to be an option at this point. It's been 2 years.
The investment for this gentleman to get water from Robin's Nest would be.
It's not feasible.
Yeah, that's not,
It's
that's
not,
But
it's
we
not
could-
feasible.
We could just let them put individual wells in, just like they're doing in Surprise Park.
Yes, but there would be no recapture on that then.
No, it's just,
And they would
Each
never be
homeowner owns a
connected
well.
to
Yeah.
municipal water. And Bob, as you know,
And that would,
pretty close to an extended supply.
I think building something into the future and recapture of some kind wouldn't be a bad idea. And if there were, for redundancy, if there were 2 8-inch wells there, that would also backfeed our system perhaps someday. So I'm kind of, go ahead, Don.
Jerry, I have one more thing to add. We have a contract right now with RDC to design a water main extension from 133rd all the way down to 145th along Morse, but that's only design. Construction's not funded or when that may go. So
Yeah.
there is some discussion about extending it south, but that only gets you 145th.
Yeah, and once it's down there, this gentleman may not be able to afford the property either. So, so I just, if he wanted to build some, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
So
my take is simple. He's trying to do an R2 subdivision with decent sized lots. Follow the subdivision control ordinance. It would be more economical for him if we were further along. However, if he has to spend the 10 G's times 24, so be it. Each homeowner now pays an extra 10,000 for their lot.
Right.
And they have a well and a tank and have to buy salt and all the stuff that goes along with it.
If they're never on the municipal water system, then.
And then option B is he would agree to run the water lines from all the homes to a pump house like Robin's Nest did with a well. That later possibly could be acquired by the town. And maybe that agreement of the acquiring it is written into the front end of the deal based on costs and or him being able to recapture the things that he put into that,
Yeah, and if he
but not the pipes going to the houses, et
right,
cetera.
but if he stubs it out to Morse, that
Right.
can be.
Later
Yeah.
tapped into if we think the water's good enough to mess in with our system, right? There's a lot of things that go along with this rather than just try to give the guy an answer tonight.
Yeah, no,
This is pretty complicated.
yeah. I just want to just move it along and see where.
And I'm going to speak, again, if anybody doesn't agree with me. I think a community well, some kind of recapture thing, maybe an avenue. We certainly are, as Mr. Oshin said, we're certainly leaning on municipal water everywhere we can get it. Because, you want some ROI on an investment. So anybody had anything else about the water? Please speak
Well,
up.
Jerry, it's not illogical to conclude that some development of the South Shore Golf Course will occur. Maybe it won't be a YMCA, right?
Perhaps
But
not.
what's the next logical thing?
Right.
Yeah. And when that happens, what are we going to do? We're going to be looking at the water distribution to the homes in that project.
Correct.
So,
And we have a game plan that we are working on and have been working on And as Mr. Austin alluded to, we're getting close. We
Very
feel.
close.
So we've not really answered your question.
Well, no, I don't know how long this gentleman's going to
Yeah.
chase
It
this,
would be
chase
unfortunate.
this project.
My opinion is this: if somebody buys the land, does R2 lots with proper sizes and doesn't ask for variances, I personally am
That's a dream.
A-okay for those folks to have their own wealth. And it would be unfortunate for it to miss out by a year or 6 months or 2 years.
Yeah.
But if that were the case, then that is the case.
I agree.
The opportunity of a lifetime is the lifetime of the opportunity. And that's all we can say.
I mean, I personally, in my mind, I'm thinking something like, what's right across the street? What's right next to Robin's Nest, the new one that's showing.
Lakeside.
Lakeside. House is kind of in that range.
Right.
I'm leaning towards.
The view would be spectacular for those people because it's overlooking a guaranteed wetland/park forever.
I know.
It would be absolutely
Well, I
amazing
know.
place.
Maybe not.
So
You
go
could
ahead.
stagger it in
You're
such a
looking
way to give everyone a view. It'd
Yeah.
be cool.
Well, and you're
I
right,
agree, John.
Heather. That was a couple years ago. Things are different, which brings him to his product.
I didn't like the prior
65
developer's
foot
idea of that 65-foot lot. This
It's a narrow lot.
town is and has been and was cottage homes, and now because of some unforeseen things in 2006 and 7, giving carte blanche zone changes, we now have a zillion more cottage homes and duplexes. So I think this commission is a part of some of the things we're talking about, needs to talk about a moratorium where it doesn't make sense for those types of lots.
But not being able to, not for the municipality, not be able to do a recapture.
It'd be a bummer if we couldn't do it.
And-
But
and
if
so,
we
so,
can-
but you're promoting individual lots. I mean,
Yeah.
individual
We're
wells.
just not there.
And Heather and I both.
It's
agree.
R2 lots.
Heather agrees and I agree.
Individual lots. Never on the.
Yeah, for that, we would
municipal
just
water
miss out,
system.
those 24 houses unfortunately would miss out. So, but hopefully if
But they
well,
had a
not
community,
hopefully.
if they had a community well, the houses wouldn't miss out. They'd have water and we could also
someday
have
tie
it,
in.
have
Yeah,
it someday.
Someday possibly so.
Again, my point is 2 years ago, we had someone in front of us that was proposing something. that
Yeah.
We're kind of giving the same answers to. Now, we're 2 years later, we're not any farther. I know
Right.
we're working to get farther and we're gonna get there.
But we're
is
not
it-
there.
But his ROI would be different with community well. Because the product he's doing is nowhere near what the other one was.
Okay, here, let me say this then. I understand. I don't want to tell him no. I don't want to say.
Yeah, I
We
understand.
have no idea what's going on and it's not an option right now. So is one of those two things an option where we can give him the sense of security that we're going to be able to do something with those lots?
I guess then you have the minutes.
Well put.
Do you know that the cost of a community well would fit your business plan?
So the way I would do it is I would sell the lots, okay, at X amount of dollars. And then it would be just like it usually is, the onus to install that well would be on the home buyer.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't cost me anything to put an individual well in.
Right.
A
Okay.
community well, on the other hand.
Yeah.
It's a much larger undertaking. We have to put the wells in, we have to put distribution piping in.
But then you just pack that money into the lot fee, correct?
It depends on what that cost is, if it's.
Well, then why don't you double check that cost?
Okay.
Because that was,
Yeah.
if I remember right, that was the breaking point for the gentleman who was here the last time.
That's the way
And it was, I forget the number he was throwing around. I'm not even gonna guess it.
30.
Well, that's what I was guessing, Bob, but
It's gotta
that
be.
seemed, that was just for the 2 wells or something. It would seem to way out there,
He
out
just-
there.
He just read it with 30 lots. From the minute.
Well, you
No,
were
I
going
went
towards the overall.
30,000.
No, yeah, we're talking, yeah.
We're talking
He's
money.
talking law. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, we're talking money. That was the breaking point for him because he knew there wasn't any water close
Right.
soon
Yeah.
either. So maybe you should do a little more homework
Yeah.
and see what's what, but I think that's,
This is.
like
It
John
feels
said,
like-
full size
It
lots, no
feels like the
variances.
board is willing.
Yeah, that's really all I need to know. If I
consider.
heard, no, forget it, we're not doing it then.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm hearing. So
Yeah. Well,
I've already spoken to Gary, to Touring Engineering about it, and I mean, I'll go back to them. And,
Who'd you say?
Yeah, I heard that too.
Who did you speak
Touring,
to?
engineering,
Yeah, it does.
for the civil engineering.
Right.
I don't wanna do like we did for the last one, send them away and not get anything. I want something to be developed to bring tax dollars into our community.
I agree with you, Bob. I think everybody agrees with you. However, never being able to recapture that for either party, I don't know if that's the best.
So he's got to run the numbers.
He's got to run the numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that helps. And then one more issue. So also in these, if I'm reading them correctly, is there an issue with the sanitary sewer capacity down there?
At the time, we were still having some questions
questions.
about capacity, but we've since
Whoa,
solved that, correct?
We don't have any sewer issues.
no,
We were unsure at that
Not,
point,
and
and
not 24 lots.
no.
Okay.
This
How
is downstream of lift station 1. It's okay.
Don, how far would this development's sewer line need to be extended to get to a sanitary?
I think there's an interceptor line on the north side of it that runs east into the parish interceptor, I think.
Okay, so distance. This
Not
gentleman,
long at all. I think it's right there.
That's what they've told me.
are we talking about 300 feet or are we talking about 30 feet?
I think it's right there. Like, I think it's adjacent to it. I think it's adjacent to the northern boundary is
I
where
think-
like the lift station 1 force main is.
Okay, so,
By the green, it's right there on the property line.
right,
It's
Would
not,
you-
it's not lift station 1.
It's right next to
Lift
where the
station
lot
3.
okay,
It's on
Alright.
Moore Street. It's right there.
okay, all right.
You have the
I
answers
heard
that you
forced
need?
main and hooking toilets up to a forced main doesn't seem like a good idea.
I do, yeah. The only thing that I need to find out is, so I've heard that the sanitary sewer runs in the golf course property, just to the north. But is there also a main in Morse?
An interceptor.
Can that be?
Yes.
There's an interceptor. That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think the sanitary sewer would be an issue
Okay.
anywhere near as what the water may or may not be. And I would encourage you to check with several well companies before.
I've spoken to Economy over here, so I'll
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
I think just not to jump on this, but one of the other issues with the well was the long-term maintenance, being, the responsibility of 24 homeowners now.
yeah, well,
Testing
it would,
maintenance, and it gets pricey.
well, it does, and I'm familiar with that, Don. I know it's $500 a month to have somebody check the water Monday through Friday and those kinds of things. However, the end result is perhaps beneficial. So, and would Don, do you know would this development have to have 2 wells, or would it only need 1 10-inch well, for example?
I think you'd want 2 to be redundant.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if it would be 2 would be required. That's why I was asking. Okay. No, I mean, this is a good conversation. So,
I'm happy with the,
yeah, stay
Okay.
on the horse.
all right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Mr. Lucasso, just so you know, Jill just checked that the zoning of that parcel right now is R1, not R2. Better, so that changes the lot size, minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet in R1, 10,000.
So he was 100 by 150, you said.
I don't know.
Well, so the lots are, if you put a road right down the middle.
Yeah.
You're gonna get about 135 depth,
That's what we got
which is
there.
which is what Lifehouse had. He had
Right.
that 135 dimension. So you've got 135 foot depth on the south side of the road, 135 foot depth on the north side of the road.
So they
It's-
need maybe like 110 foot
Yeah.
width or so
Yeah.
to get 15.
But I would need to get 24, I need to get 24 lots, so that's why I'm saying it may go down to 100 and on the width.
So now we're into a PUD situation.
Or rezoning to R2.
Okay. All right. Those are good sized pieces of property.
Yeah, 65 by 135 is 14,850. So it's 150 square foot.
It's a nice deep lot, it's just not very,
Yeah,
it's not very wide.
Yeah.
Still though,
Yeah.
100 is, I mean, compared to some of the stuff that we see.
Oh, absolutely. Isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
65 times 130, or no? It's 100 by 30. 135 by 100, not.
It's
65. Okay.
1350, yeah.
The other guy had it.
Yeah.
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 So then 100, it'd be a little more than 110, it'd be around 112
Yeah.
feet by 135 to get 15.
to get the R1?
Yeah.
Okay. But they're good sized lots, like you said.
We don't see those too
No,
often.
No,
I don't know if
We
a
don't-
112-foot wide lot. is
Yeah,
124.
Yeah, 110 wide gives us 14,850, so it's almost there.
About 112.
112 feet would get us there.
Need
Yep.
In order to
Not
get
have
R1.
In order to get R1,
And if
right.
that doesn't deal with the 24 lot. then
Correct.
You may be seeking a rezoning to R2.
And just to reiterate, the last guy, the water was his hurdle.
right.
So,
For comparison, guys, lakeside lots are 80 by 135.
But again,
PUD.
the other guy was attracting the same types of customers that we have everywhere else in
Yeah.
town with proper, beautiful estate homes overlooking the incredible woods.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
changes
no,
the
this would up.
buyer's demographic.
Yeah.
And again, he mentioned the product.
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costo.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Everly. Next item.
And I'll go through this. I believe I handed these out at the last meeting, but I'll do it again. This is a review of the first 6 chapters of the
Thank you.
zoning ordinance. This is the summary comment. discussion.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is this your 3-page that you sent out?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
These are, what I'm handing you out next, if you want to look at them up front, these are the pages that are referenced by that first list. Not, of course, the entire.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All of it. Thank you. And just as a way of background, you folks, how many of you have been on the planning commission since 2015?
All of us, right?
I think so. Heather.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're to be commended. You did a lot of work on what I've been researching. You did that back in 2015 and 16 with Michelle Baker. And she
Mhm. Well,
was
Trust me, Michelle gets a lot of that credit.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. A lot of credit. And by the way, before I even start that, and I want to give credit to Michelle and Don. They have the zoning map, David, about 99% ready to be adopted. So I wanted to say to you was, we're not changing any zoning of property. We're making the zoning map accurate and readable. Right now, those of us that have to deal with it can verify about the fact that it's not very readable.
that's a decent job.
Thank you. Bob. I didn't want to say
Grand
that.
drawing,
Okay.
grand drawing, Bob.
So Don and Michelle have been doing yeoman's work on this to get this ready. But I'm assuming David will still have to follow the statutory process in adopting zoning map, even though we're not changing any property.
You are.
We're confirming what's there, and making it user friendly. So in other words, folks, that means a public hearing to adopt the map. But you're gonna love the product.
It's going to be an ordinance to replace the zoning map.
So, and again, you folks did a boatload of work on this zoning ordinance back in 15 and 16. David took that work in 2017 and put it into a different format, much like the one he and I worked on in St. John. So what I've done is in my review, I think David's document, which includes everything you folks did with Michelle in here. It just formats it a little differently. Chapters and sections instead of titles, I think, David, things like that. But Title 1, for example, in here doesn't necessarily mean chapter 1 in here. So it's a little difficult to compare the two, but David got everything in here and then some from what you folks did back in that time period. And David, I don't know if you had any comments about the work that was done then.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
Spot on.
Now, what we've done, one of the very first things Jerry and I talked about when I got here was that we have a need to have a site plan section of this zoning ordinance, which we don't currently have. So, Dave and I were familiar with the ones that we had in St. John. Dyer is very similar to this. We would propose to tweak these, of course, to make them specific to Cedar Lake. These are good guidelines for what you're looking for when you're just doing the site plan. Someone has to come in here and do a site plan instead of a plat or subdivision, for example, or rezoning. So these are ready to be added to this document. And the same thing with, there was a comment in here about whether you wanted to include an open space district or not. And if you do, you need standards for those.
I'm sorry, but that document you talked about site plan.
Yes.
Will that same document apply to BZA conceptual site plan drawings or something similar?
Something similar, yes. What
Okay.
it does is it describes when a site plan is necessary. Site plan review is necessary, what the triggers are for site plan.
Well, I would, based on that, and you can jump in any time. When BZA items come in, sometimes we'd like to see more than what we see.
Right, that's spelled out.
And that, okay, all right. Okay, move on. Thank you.
This gives you a checklist of items that you're looking for in the site plan
Okay.
review. Yeah.
So these items that you want to run through on this small print, the smaller printed page with the chapter and the page, you want to go through those line by line?
Yeah, I'll go through them. That'll be pretty quick.
Okay, all right.
But then, and again, I've got an example of open space regulations if you choose to add that to your zoning. You don't currently have open space zoning.
So what is an open space?
Great question.
Yeah.
And my question is whether you want to have that or not. David had the same question here. If we're going to do it, then we need to create
those regulations. But for example, in Dyer, what they call open space is rural development. Here's what it is. Dyer calls theirs rural development. St. John calls theirs open space. We call ours agricultural. So I believe that because you've got an ag district, you don't necessarily need an open space district, but you can.
I don't see a point in reinventing the wheel.
They're synonymous terms. They really depict the community and the change in the community. That's what the titles and all of that are in 1989 or 90. But ag was not a surprise thing. There's a lot of that.
Does anybody,
There's less today.
does anybody
lot
think
less.
that we need to create another district?
No.
Anything?
No.
Anybody? No?
Here's the only
Okay.
thing that I would tell you, that in Dyer's rural development and St. John's open space district, the minimum lot size is 2 acres. I was surprised to find in your ag district, the minimum lot size is only 20,000 square feet. I expected to find it a minimum of 2 acres.
It matched the R1.
It did.
That's what that was about. It matched R1 zoning.
So are there any negative caveats to that?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think so. I don't believe so.
Okay, all
You
right.
could simply make a minimum lot size in your ag district 2 acres if you want to do as David knows, what we do here and what the other two communities do is they use those districts, ag, RD, and open space, as placeholders for properties being annexed into town. They come in automatically in Cedar Lake as agricultural. They come in automatically in St. John as open space and automatically in Dyer as rural development. Nobody wants to develop 2-acre lots, so they know they're going to rezone. But the annexation is automatic that it comes in those categories or in our three communities.
Well, then if there's no benefit of changing it, then I don't see a point.
I'm okay with it.
Right,
No, I
leave-
agree, Jerry.
Yeah,
Okay, that was my feeling too. I just didn't feel, I felt it would be somewhat.
no,
I guess the word open space, when I heard it and read it on this first bullet, was going to go towards preservation. Like master plan, yeah, like green space master plan preservation,
Right.
kind of like what Cook County did with all the forest preserves to keep it from all being built.
And you can do that. I would just tell you that Dyer's RD and St. John's open space
Gotcha.
don't do that.
Gotcha,
They're really your equivalent of ag.
gotcha.
That's what it amounts to.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I think leaving it alone is a good thing.
I
Okay.
agree.
All right, good.
Okay, item number 2.
There you go.
We're rolling now.
Yes, we are. We're flying. I don't see floodplain, floodway, and flood fringe as zoning districts. If you're developing in an area, in an R1 zone, for example, that has floodway or flood fringe in it, you've got specific development requirements regardless of how anything's zoned.
Well, about
So
10
those
years
aren't
ago,
zoning.
the floodplain got revised by the Corps and stuff about 15 years ago. So
It
that's
was-
probably
it
why
wasn't
we
even
used to
that-
have
It's
No.
longer. It's longer than that.
FPFW.
No, no, it was more recent even than that.
2012.
Yeah, 12.
Well,
Yeah.
that's yes.
That
2012
was
is
one thing, but this,
Yeah.
remember, this goes back 30 years.
Oh,
And when this was done, we were talking about different rules and regulations of Clean Water Act and
So your recommendation,
regulatory requirements.
Just
They
call
can-
it
They can
floodplain.
go.
so your recommendation is to call it one thing.
well, to eliminate them as zoning districts. They're
Okay.
not truly zoning
I agree.
districts, is what
Okay.
I'm saying. Yeah.
Does anybody have any problems with that?
I agree.
I agree.
Don, are you cool with that?
Yeah, they can go. You have other regulations in place now that,
We do.
covered it.
Okay,
Right. We have a specific ordinance that covers that, and it's the state model floodplain ordinance that all of us communities up here have adopted.
okay, all right. Chapter 4, page 1.
Yes, sir. My question was, what did we adopt? Is it 1,000 feet or 300 feet?
They're both.
That
mentioned
is
in here.
item 2B on that page. The above uses shall not include the feeding or sheltering of animals or poultry in penned enclosures within. This says 1,000 feet. Another version says 300. Do you folks happen to remember what you?
Of what?
I'm sorry, of a residential district. Of any residential zoning district. So if you've got that,
I don't remember.
there was a note in here. In fact, it says, note to reviewers, definition of agriculture used 1,000 feet and original zoning district used 300.
I thought that the only agricultural thing that we've seen in front of us are chickens.
Yeah, and I think Michelle told me that you have to be in an agricultural zoning district and have to be on at least 8 acres to even have chickens. I think that's what
Well,
Michelle
we
told
have,
me
we
today.
have, we have a laying hen portion, laying hen kind of thing for residential
There's a variance.
things.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
We must.
there's a separate
Okay.
thing.
But
But
you-
but there's some grandfathered in property still here in town.
Sure.
For
Well, if
horses.
you read the
horses,
description, it makes sense. The above use shall not include feeding or sheltering of animals or poultry in pen enclosures within 1,000 feet of any residential zoning. Note to reviewers, definition of ag used 1,000 feet, and the original zoning district is 300.
So which do you want to use?
I like the 1,000 for sheltering of animals.
That's my question to you is what was it, 1,000 you wanted to use?
Okay, well, I'm gonna, I like 1,000. However,
You can start picking out the examples.
Well-
The Hopkinson Farm would be.
well, that's exactly
Well
what
within,
Right.
be legal non-conforming
1,000 feet of a residential neighborhood.
across the street.
What
And
about
then
to the
you got-
north? No, you got,
that one on 142nd, that right next door to a
And
residential.
my sister Jackie's backyard is
Oh,
Alfredson's field.
We all got examples.
Oh, oh.
That's-
Hawkinson's farm is certainly within 1,000 feet of residential neighborhood.
It is.
No doubt
That's
about it.
correct. That's correct.
No doubt
Yeah, the
about it.
barn is 500 feet
Yeah.
from my sister's backyard.
So you're talking about 142nd. Who are you talking about?
That's the Jerry Porter, our former police officer.
Right, but that's a grandfathered in.
No, they came before us and got permission to put that in.
Chicken coop.
So the chicken coop, I'm talking about the horses next door. That's been grandfathered in.
Yeah, that was
for
prior to us
years.
being a town.
Way before that, yeah. So we all have examples, but in the future, that's what the
Yeah,
1,000
this
feet,
is
that's
about,
what the
I
1,000
like
feet's about.
1,000 for the future.
1,000, okay.
Yeah, and you know what,
For the
that takes,
future,
and-
not-
Yeah, this is
Right.
future.
exactly, and that eliminates any stormwater issues.
No, it doesn't. It just
Spreads it out.
Yeah, but if there's a stormwater problem and there's animals, there might be a less of a problem at 1,000 feet.
You need to walk down. In fact, you of all people here now, you walk downstream of Hawkins.
Listen, that's a
You'll see that.
existing non-conforming, I'm talking about stormwater in residential neighborhoods
1,000
and
feet.
1,000 feet.
Got it. I
Okay.
made the
Next
note.
one.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. Who slowed me down?
I really like 1,000 for one main.
Hey, Rick, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We talked about getting rid of the floodplain districting, so we have that wetlands and waters district currently.
Yes.
So the zoning's actually shared on the screen there, and it's primarily the wetland parcels are owned by the county parks now. If we get rid of that, what does it revert to? And how do you do that?
I wasn't advocating getting rid of wetlands and water courses, Don, as a zoning
Okay.
district. No,
Okay,
no,
no, if those are kind of part and
No,
parcel.
just the-
'Cause I know we
just
had talked
flood-
about that.
just floodplain, floodway, and flood fringe.
Okay, never mind.
Okay, chapter 4, page 4.
That's the same one as earlier. It's the open space zoning district. We're getting rid of that.
Okay,
5.1, section C, that special exception. It just seems to be out of place there. I believe what we should be doing is section B should be 1 through 7. Move section C, special exception, to below number 2. So in this case, if you go to the top of page, or chapter 5, page 2, we should just simply say special exceptions as permitted in chapter 18. The way it's worded here, it seems to me that it infers that home occupations and these nameplates or signs as follows need to be special exceptions, and I don't think that was the intent.
Agreed.
We just, and this occurs several places, so you'll find some redundancy in this list. If we agree to it here, then we'll agree to it several other places down this list. It's just moving it to
special exceptions, what special exceptions to what?
uses.
to any uses permitted in that particular zoning district. So you allow special exceptions.
So this is BZA stuff?
Well, this is where you determine what uses you'll allow in any given zoning district.
Okay.
And what you're saying is here's the above permitted uses would be in section B, and they should be 1 through 7, renumbering home occupations to 6,
Oh,
and
I see.
nameplates
Okay.
and signs to 7.
Right.
Get rid of that section C, special exceptions, and move that
At the end.
at the end, yeah.
Yep. Totally makes
And
sense.
then it
Yeah,
just says
okay,
you
okay.
allow special exceptions.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right, thank you.
Yes, sir. The comment on chapter 5, page 2, in that section E, paragraph 2, I'm sorry, paragraph 3. Each lot shall front on a dedicated and improved street. David, dedicated implies public. And I think what we want to just say is improved street, don't we? Because it could be public or private.
I'm not confused by it, but if that simplifies it, it makes sense.
Yeah, I guess to me, dedicated means it's dedicated to the public.
Well, dedicated is public.
Yeah, so it's, and we would allow them on a private street in a PUD, for example.
Well,
So-
not
That has
necessarily.
been an issue in the past.
You have a private street on a plat. it can certainly be on a plat.
Yeah, but it's
But,
just not
but-
dedicated to the public.
Yeah, I mean, clarification is okay.
So
Should it say dedicated public street?
Just, no, not dedicated. Let's get rid of the word dedicated.
Yeah,
Each
strike
lot shall front on an improved street.
Approved street, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's 100% improved.
What'd you say, Don?
Just
Hang
I
stand
mean,
on.
we've had that problem before across the street on Morse. I mean, what's considered an improved street? Improved to public right-of-way requirements or improved how?
That's my question.
We got a
Okay.
problem.
Is that 100% improved?
To improve to town standards.
definition of street takes care of that.
Huh?
Yeah.
Definition of street takes care of that. To town standards.
Okay, that's
Okay,
that's,
Talking about new subdivisions.
okay.
Yeah.
But for example, the Brandon parcel, that was a private street that he didn't own, so he couldn't improve it.
Right.
So how do we get around stuff like that?
We don't. So like,
Well, let me ask you, what did you do in Havenwood? Those are all private streets.
Yeah, they're improved.
They were built to town standards.
Pardon?
That's PUD.
Town standards.
Yeah,
PUD.
but.
Yeah,
Was there any special meeting or anything that had to be done, or
No, it's in the PUD. They-
according to what the ordinance reads right now, he's saying that it has to be on a dedicated street. Those streets are not
it
dedicated
is,
because
it's on
they're
a plat,
private.
It's on a one lot subdivision plat.
We're-
And it says what those streets are.
We're going to get rid of dedicated though.
But the
Just improved.
dedicated's going.
Yeah, that-
Effective going forward, dedicated, the word dedicated is out.
and that's why I wanted,
Well,
John, yes, to get rid of that word dedicated so that,
And I'm all for that. I'm
Yeah.
just confused because he's saying this and someone's saying that.
Yeah.
And bring it up to town standards. And so, it's got to say something in there about bringing it up to the town standards, the private street.
The
Is-
definition of street takes care of that. In
The
Specifications or-
definition of street is
Okay.
right,
100%
That's
town,
in-
100% town standards.
correct, and that's
Okay.
in another ordinance.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
all right.
5 dash.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, 5, yeah, page 2, that would be paragraph 4, side yard. We have and a rear yard, those percentages, the side yard setbacks and rear yard setbacks being 25% of the lot. It's much easier to just prescribe a specific distance.
And we started doing that. Just kind of, I think that should be in the book. I think we started doing something like that, didn't we?
Well, we were going to change it from percentage to
Yeah, we start calling it
a
30
footage,
feet.
30
Exactly.
foot or something was
Yeah.
it? And
Right.
That is what we proposed back in 15 or whatever it was. So that should be in
Okay,
your updated book
and
or whatever.
then we agree on that. We'll go with a specific.
Yeah, and that
Much
that-
easier.
that 30 foot or 35 foot, whatever that rear yard was actually working out for front yard setback with the square footage on a lot of properties. I forget how it was working out, and Tim kind of jumped on that. Certain dimensions make that backyard work good. You could get a deck in there and not have all kinds of issues. It kept there was certain pieces to that puzzle that kept it out of BZA.
Yeah, I would just put a little note, Rick, with Tim next to it. He'll know it.
Yeah, there
Because
was,
he had it all figured out, so that way we made it so that people didn't have to come for a variance every time they want to put a deck and a pool.
and the lot dimension being deeper than wider gave that rear yard, gave everybody privilege.
Right, yeah.
So ask him about that, because there was some caveats to that seemed to work okay in a formula kind of way.
Okay.
Oh, the next one's my favorite.
You got a favorite?
I got a bunch of favorites.
Okay.
You're one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've got an issue, I guess, with accessory structures in in general, we are proposing to change accessory, in this document that you've created, no more than 2 accessory structures, not including garages, on a lot, and not to exceed a total of 250 square feet in R1, 120 square feet in R2. That's what's in here proposed. But go ahead, Jerry. It looks like you have a question.
I'm confused. I'm
Yes,
looking at this accessory building, 1,000 square feet. What are you talking about?
That is the confusion, because then there's another section right now. I think it's just, I believe it's Title 23 in the current ordinance, and it does allow for accessory structures up to be a certain size based on the size of the lot. And it starts at 600 square feet and goes to something like 2,000 square feet, depending on the size of your lot. So that's in a later chapter of the book, one that I've not gotten to yet, but it does bear discussing here, because we're talking about accessory structures and limiting them in R1 and R2 to the dimensions or square footage I just mentioned. But in another section of the ordinance that we say you can go 600 square feet or more if you have, depending on the size of your lot. And now
Well,
go ahead.
The post and beam building, you needed a certain lot size for it at all. Was that a preference, or is that really written down somewhere?
Well,
because it was 2 acres, right? You couldn't do a post and beam building unless you had a minimum of 2 acres.
Let's see, I don't see that anywhere in the ordinance.
Well, then somebody's making things up as we go.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of been the rule of thumb. So this says a building greater than 1,100 square feet are exempt from the prohibition of metal post building construction.
Yes, that's the key. So if the accessory structure is bigger than 1,100 square feet,
Yeah.
it can be then metal post building construction. I don't know why.
I think what we've all, and we may not all agree, we've had people in here wanting to put up Quonset hut metal garages on where you have you have to go across the street to your other piece of your property. You know, you got like lakefront, and then the streets behind you, and then there's a garage space behind that. I think for aesthetics, we tried to keep some kind of standard together for garages, accessory buildings, you know, that were that may be how this got to the 1,100 square feet, because we had a guy here, it was BZA, John. He wanted to put up that garage.
So you're
that
saying,
garage.
Rick, you don't understand why we would allow somebody to build a whole building that's greater than 1,100 square feet if we don't allow them to build one smaller?
Well, if we don't allow an accessory structure built bigger than 250 square feet, why are we talking about 1,100?
Where do we get to 1,100?
Gotcha.
You're talking about that because of the size of boats and people and their stuff.
Yeah.
that People are trying to stuff into a building and get out of the. weather
Right,
and take care of
right.
themselves.
Right.
When
That's
you back a pontoon boat into a building, a middle of post building, well, you better have some room.
yeah, and that's
I mean.
and that's the thing about
As unique to this community as anything can be.
yeah, and yeah, the lake in the middle of town is certainly makes some decisions for us.
Some people
I
buy
didn't-
lots just for a garage.
The
Yeah.
control you maintain
Is
on
it our
this,
room
and
under-
these-
Rick, does this show
I-
a detached
Oh.
garage ruling? The old ordinance spelled out attached and detached. I'm not seeing it.
I believe that's exactly what, and again, I apologize, I didn't give you this section because I hadn't gone that far, but in Title 23 of the existing zoning ordinance that Michelle uses, that's where this chart is that says you can have the accessory structures, and if you're in order to have an accessory structure over 1,000 square feet, you have to be on an acre.
Yeah.
And then but here's the threshold. 10,000 to 15,000 square feet, you can have 800 square feet of accessory space. Now, that would include any accessory building and a detached garage. So if you had a 600 square foot garage, you could have a 200 square foot shed. The next size is 15,000 square feet to an acre. You could
have 1,000 square foot accessory in total accessory structure. And then you have to be over 1 to 2 acres to get 1,600 square feet, and 2 acres, over 2 acres to get 2,000 square feet of accessory building space. So, but again, in R1 and R2, we're limiting accessory structures to 250 square feet. And 120 square feet.
Yeah.
But I believe, David, that is exclusive of the lot. Those restrictions.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, because in another part of the ordinance, it refers to an attached garage as an accessory structure. I don't see an attached garage as an accessory structure. Detached, yes, but not.
Okay, but a detached garage is a detached garage.
Correct.
Right.
For example.
Yep.
If he had no other garage, that would be his garage. So how could you call it an accessory building?
By definition, it's an accessory building.
Because it's detached.
Right.
Correct.
But we even call an attached garage an accessory structure in here, and I
It's
don't.
not included in the square footage of the
This,
house.
this whole section is gonna need its own evening,
Well,
because this is,
yeah,
this is all over the place.
or I would say this, Rick, Jill, Tim, and Michelle, come up with some common sense views. Because we as a community might want to encourage larger lots where people build it. I'll use 117th to Calumet. Okay, I'm sure those lots are that size because they have to have septic, number one.
Yes.
But number two, all those folks built some beautiful homes.
They did.
They have garages attached to their homes and they have nice outbuildings.
And their stuff's inside.
And all their stuff's inside, and it's a beautiful thing.
Bill
So-
Jackson lives over there.
That's one of my nicest
Getting all their stuff.
examples of a great
Yeah.
subdivision.
Yeah.
It would be great if the town of Cedar Lake had somebody wanting to do something like that within our town boundaries. And we should think about that as we grow our community for that clientele. Because we have boats, we have snowmobiles, we have quads, and we have jet skis, and you name it, right? Tractors and
Stuff.
motorcycles.
Lots of stuff.
And that's what happens when you have that you want to accommodate without renting U-Locks.
So what, did you say not renting a U-Lock?
Not renting U-Locks.
You gotta be struck
I'm not
down
a
here
fan.
before the night's
I'm
over.
not a fan.
You're not a fan. Now, wait a minute now.
I'm not a
That's
fan of
another
little
that's
cottages,
another-
That's
little
another
garages,
subject.
and
That's
little
another topic.
U-Locks.
That's another topic, John.
It's a whole nother night.
We're gonna have to go over this in some more detail, but, and Tim's gonna hate me for this. I think a pole building, post and beam building can be done properly if it's covered in siding to match the house.
The word properly. Yeah.
And so it's about aesthetics, and there's some value in that. And if there was a certain amount of concrete or whatever the criteria would be.
Your controls historically here have been about those type buildings, height and door access and
Right.
the dimensions.
I'm just
That's
talking
how
about
you
I'm talking about the structure that,
But that's how you keep control and you add aesthetics to it like you're describing.
yeah.
Got-
Yeah.
Got a pretty.
But the
nice
purpose of this update is to make less need for people to go to the museum.
That's one of the big.
Yeah,
That's
well,
a big goal.
I agree. And a post and beam building with concrete on the floor,
Yeah, done right.
where that done, what we call correctly, if there's some details. That aesthetically, it's not too high, not too big, and will match its complementary structure. You know, it's not stick built. I mean, there's some value to the owner, and it's the life expectancy is a long time also. You know, a pole building with just gravel, that may not
There's no
be the
there's-
package.
Yes, to me, there's no issue with a metal post building construction, Jerry. It's how you finish it.
Yeah.
And if you finish it, if we put some detail in there for
Yeah.
standards for finishing it, there's nothing wrong with that kind of construction. It's
Uh,
just that we think of a pole barn.
Yes. Yes.
As that typical post and metal post building structure, and it doesn't have to look like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, those accessory building sizes, the larger they get, the higher the roof,
I
the
know.
ceiling gets,
We
not by a
always-
lot, but they're
we always
14
say
feet,
Yeah,
15 feet, 16 feet.
And I agree. I think, like John said, your circle of,
Michelle could tell us what she would suggest, and it would probably be spot on.
she,
She's lived.
where's Michelle? Call her up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's lived it for 20 years.
There's a pretty easy solution to it, and we'll propose it.
Yeah, we just tried to, we tried to, door heights, as Tim will tell you.
Yeah.
You keep the door heights somewhere and you don't run into other things.
Well, you have a maximum 10-foot wall, for example, on a
10-foot
garage.
wall
10
keeps
foot on a
everything,
detached
keeps
garage.
everything dialed in behind it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, if anybody's got anything else, speak now, otherwise we'll go to section 5.4.
That's the same as the comment above, so we can,
Okay.
that's a special exception and rearranging how that's worded there.
All right, then 5.5,
Again,
percentage of
same.
side yard setbacks, same as above.
Yep.
Side and rear yard, yeah. We already have though, percentage, we don't have percentage of side yard, we have a distance, don't we?
No, you have percentage of side yard, 25%
25% of what?
of the width of the lot, sorry. So if your lot
I thought it was 8, like
That
8
was
foot,
talked to you.
yeah. I don't think we've ever talked side yard percentage.
Well, if you see the note here that I took from this document, again, the one that I
Okay.
have in front of me.
Okay.
It says, each side yard, this is on chapter 5, page 2, item 4. Side yard, each lot except as otherwise specified shall have 2 side yards, each having a width of not less than 12 feet, and the aggregate width of both side yards on any lot shall be not less than 25% of the width of the lot.
I thought our side yards were 8 feet, right? Residential property wasn't 8 feet?
Yeah.
We've used that. That's what we got them.
Yeah,
Okay. So-
percentage, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
good,
Okay.
okay, yeah. So that's a repeat then.
Yeah, we
Jerry.
need a number, not percentage.
Right, right. The only place to me where a percentage is gonna make sense is when we get to creating that district you talked about earlier, John, the cottage
Overlay district.
overlay
whatever.
district for the, Dave, you and I talked about the legacy lot. And I think we're gonna have to employ percentages there because of the small size of the lot. But that's a discussion for another time.
Okay, the other section 5.5, disregard comments about living space and allowing larger garages in R2 and R1. Since I
Well-
discovered, go ahead.
Yes, sir. The disregarding the comment about living spaces, I wanted to make sure that we were saying that we wanted a minimum 1,500 square foot for a single story, 1,700 for a bi-level, 2,200 for a 2-story in livable space, not including garages, decks, porches, and whatever. But the next sentence says that, and I missed it when I first went through that. The last sentence says, all such areas shall be exclusive of unenclosed porches, terraces, and garages. So it already does what I wanted to make sure it did. I just wanted to make sure the 1,500 square feet didn't include a 600 square foot garage. And all you're left with is 900 square feet. Living
Well, when the
space.
county does the taxes, they do that all the time.
Yeah. But that last
And they
one,
had the garage.
the last comment, here in this section, we're in R2 and we're allowing 1,100 square foot garages. In R1, we're limiting them to 960 square feet on larger lots. And I don't understand.
Maybe that's back.
I think it's something backwards. there.
Well,
Yeah.
Tim said Tim thought that was changed to 1,300 square feet in R1, but Michelle said it never was. So we've either got to increase R1 or.
Well, if we just flip flop the numbers, yeah.
You could switch.
I built my garage strictly to our ordinance, and so I think it is supposed to be 936 for R2.
Well, yes. In fact, Michelle, that you're almost right, John. Michelle said it is 960 for R1 right now. It's 864 for R2 right now. So that makes sense to me. But again, the document that I took this information from is what you folks worked on several years ago. And in it, it proposes still 960 square feet garage for R1 and 1,100 for R2. And I'm sure you didn't mean it that
I
way.
think it's
The other-
backwards.
Switch them?
Yeah.
Okay.
864 for R2.
Yeah, 864 currently for R2.
Yeah, that seems.
Yeah, that seems back.
That's just backwards is
Yeah.
all. But we do this, we repeat it in further along in here in other zoning districts, so. Okay.
So you say also though, I discovered that R1 garages are allowed to be up to 1,300 square feet as opposed to 960 square feet.
That's what Tim had told me. And then when I talked to Michelle, she said, no, she said, we talked about it, but we never adopted
Well, it
that
seems
number.
like if somebody
And
does
it's probably
have
in the new book.
R1 lot, that a 1,300 square foot might work if their lot coverage, et cetera, works.
The book that Michelle uses, Jerry, it does still show 960 for R1 and 864 for R2. This proposed book is the one that shows 960 for R1 and 1,100 for R2.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's backwards.
And I think these, I think the square footage for these garages, we've had some BZA things where people had a 3-car garage and then they wanted to go extra deep. And they couldn't go extra deep, so they had to build a wall, or were gonna build a wall. They couldn't do this and couldn't do that. So these 3-car attached garages, I mean, having 1,300 square feet, I mean, I don't see a problem with it.
Well, a 3-car garage is 600 square feet. So 1,100 square feet could be a 5-car garage. That's a big garage. But as long as the garage and the house don't exceed the lot coverage that you prescribe in
Yeah.
there, I think that's what should.
Yeah,
It seems big.
Yeah, we'd get into a huge aesthetics mess with that.
Yeah. I mean, if you put 1,100 square foot garage on 1,100 square foot house, that's gonna look pretty silly, but 1,100 square feet garage on a 5,000 square foot house is,
Center of the upstairs.
makes sense, but
Okay.
anyway. Next comment is a repeat.
So are we leaving 964 in R1 and 8?
No, we're gonna make it 1,100 square feet in R1, 960 in R2. Is that what, I think that was the flavor.
I think that's good
like
to
that.
run
I
with
think
right
that's
now.
good.
Yeah.
And those are maximums.
Yeah.
The minimum's 400 square foot.
Yeah, and if somebody has an R1, they want to go over the 1,100, they come for it.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
Right.
we're allowed.
We don't have any R1 lots to speak of in town, really, so. It's an irrelevant
He was
point.
just there.
True.
Um,
R2, that was R2.
Chapter 5, 6, that's the same comment about 1,100 square foot accessory building, so we can buzz right back that by that. 5, 7 is a repeat. 5, 9, again, that we have 1,100 square feet allowed in the RT zoning district, which is bigger than what we're allowing in R1 currently. So I don't know what size that should be. Jill, RT is duplex. Yes, RT is duplex. Yeah. So I don't know that we're looking to have 1,100 square foot garages on each duplex. Maybe that's the total square footage you want to allow for the two of
We don't
them.
even like the word duplex.
Yeah. Sorry. That, in fact, they're calling it, what is Alton
Paired
called?
villas.
Paired villas, yeah, there we go.
TV.
Yeah,
That's like,
a rose by any other name.
it's like lipstick on a pig.
There you go. So I don't know what size garage you want in the RT zoning district, but in here it says 1,100 square feet.
Well, if you
That's it.
think about Monastery Woods, duplexes.
Okay.
Those folks hardly have room for 2 cars and garbage cans. So I would say that those are too small.
All right, but
I don't know what they are.
But is 1,100 square feet for both units permissible, which would be 550 square feet per side? That's a 2.5 car garage.
That
Two
should
and
be-
a quarter.
that should
Is
be
it
plenty.
2.5?
That should be
Think if
plenty.
you have a
plenty.
16-foot wide door plus 2 foot on each side, that's, 20 feet, right?
Yeah.
With 10-foot depth,
Oh, no, 20-foot depth.
20-foot.
For,
Yeah,
yeah,
400, so that'd be,
yeah. So
That's
so
adequate.
1,100 for the lot, for the
Yeah. That's-
total,
Yeah.
550 a piece is fine.
that's good.
That's good. That's good.
Now, would that be if somebody wanted more and somebody wanted less, as long as it equaled that, they have to be the same.
No, they're not
yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
They're building both units the same.
That's true.
The mirror images.
Be the
so
same, right?
they're not gonna-
Usually, but you could do a 3-car on one side and a 2-car on the other and still make it within 1,100 square feet on the total property.
They have all kinds of variety in their
Yeah,
floor models. One of my sisters lives in Monastery Wood South, and she has a more depth. It's 2-car wide, but
So she has room.
she's got room,
Yeah.
storage, it's like half a
Okay,
car length or
okay.
whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a comment about space, though. A
Yeah.
lot of the problem with some of this is the driveway is as wide as the garage door.
True.
That's a huge problem,
Huge.
huge
But that
problem.
was a PUD blanket ordinance.
I got you.
blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Okay. 510.
Same special exception
special
issue.
thing. 514 goes along with paragraph 2, section 3.
514 is, let's see.
514, the second one,
Yeah.
I agree with your comment. Minimum building size. I thought they did meet the minimum building size.
Right now, it's 950 square feet
Really?
that they can be, and
That's almost getting into a tiny home.
I don't think you want to,
No, they should have to be the same as
whatever zoning
as
district.
whatever zoning district it meets.
Yeah.
Okay,
1,500 square foot, not counting the garage.
and
If
I don't
R2.
believe there's
So
any,
unless the General Assembly tells you otherwise.
I was gonna say, David,
Oh.
Watching that bill very carefully.
yeah,
I would
That'd
also,
be a crazy thing, what they're trying to do with architectural standards.
Guy who owns the business over in Mishawaka is trying to make that happen.
Trying to do it.
Ridiculous.
I think it's not super
Yeah.
popular now, but manufactured homes needs a definition. If it's brought in whole and set on any piece of property, is that a manufactured home?
well, a manufactured,
Because,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
A manufactured home is a mobile home. They became known as manufactured homes in about 1981, I want to say, David, was the legislation under HUD.
Mhm.
Well, they have different building standards that apply.
Well, they
to a
got the
mobile
Boca-
home
they got the
versus
Boca- the-
manufactured to a modular.
It's not a modular home. That's the confusion. Some
Well,
people think
that-
manufactured and modular are the same, and they're not. Manufactured is what the mobile homes have become known as since some date around 1980.
right, and what I'm getting at is where I live, the covenants from 1952 says no structure erected elsewhere in whole or in part shall be moved upon any piece of property.
And you can do that in your covenants. We can't do it as a town.
That's right.
The
Okay.
town can't restrict that.
All right.
But your subdivision can. So that's Munich was careful about that. And
So we have a lot of, I'm gonna call modular homes within our town that are on slabs or footings, where they brought one half of the house.
Yep.
And the other half,
Bolt them
they
together.
bolted together with skinny walls. One of my sisters used to live in one.
But there is a difference between modular and
And
manufactured.
and we're not talking about modular here.
No, we're not.
We're talking about something to roll in on wheels.
But a trailer is a manufactured home and a
Yes,
Wausau home is a manufactured home.
right.
Well, but
So it's-
exactly,
it's
but
very
Wausau,
confusing. Wausau is a nice
Wausau,
stick-built home built in a controlled environment.
right.
No warpage, no wet wood.
But
blah, blah, blah.
Wausau had three products. One was 2 halves. The other one was panelized.
Well, we
The
might
walls were
want to
done. The walls were
talk about
done.
this at a work session too, because this is an interesting subject that we should clearly understand.
I guess,
The definitions by the state is where we have to start.
Well, you got, when you look into manufactured mobile homes, it depends on what, you got HUD specifications going with them. And that dictates a lot, that HUD
Yeah.
specification.
It
And
is.
a lot of it depends on the framing, the undercarriage. If you got a metal I-beam going down the middle of it for support as opposed to wood, and it depends, you got a belly pan in it.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure the definition is
Mobile home will
good.
go into a
Right.
belly pan, and that usually creates a lot of problems.
That's exactly
But,
right, Jim.
but the definitions is, because I looked into it, and there, you can find 10 different definitions for the same property.
Right, but it was HUD that created the standards for them, and from that point on, whatever date that was, around 1980, from then on, it was a manufactured home, not a mobile home anymore. Just
Okay, so the definition of a manufactured home right now today is what?
State statute.
You're gonna come out of state.
No, I mean, is it metal? Is it has metal floor?
Depends on where you read it. Depends on.
This is too complicated for tonight.
Okay,
It's a
all right.
pass.
I agree.
Yeah.
But the point is, we don't wanna-
One manufacturer, and he calls it this construction
Oh, yeah, they call
manufacturer,
it
and another
different
calls it,
things,
Rochester Homes.
mobile.
Yes,
I
but
mean,
I'm looking for, I think we need a definition
Yes,
that keeps us from all of a sudden having a neighborhood full of something we may not want.
yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah, that's.
And there's certainly definitions of that.
Okay, right.
HUD provides them if nothing else, so. My point is just if we don't have any ability to stop them, then we at least want to make them have to be the same size on the same size lots as our, whatever, R1, R2, whatever zoning district they're in, garages, parkings, off-street parking spaces, the whole 9 yards.
We can't say no manufactured homes in R1 or R2, can we?
Well, that's what this is saying here, is that we don't have the ability to say no to them being placed there. But I think,
Can we say no though?
I don't think so.
Okay.
right,
I wouldn't want to
Because-
say no.
Because
Say they're single-family homes.
Yeah.
They're gonna be defined as such, they're protected by statute, and they're also protected by, HUD.
Yeah,
but we're gonna make
Okay.
them be on foundations, and I believe we can make them be on the same size lots, the same square footages,
yeah,
those types
Okay,
of things. So
yeah.
that's gonna
Tighten them up.
deter
Yeah,
people from
yeah.
wanting
Oh,
to
yeah.
do it.
And
Okay.
the truth is, they're not that much less than a stick-built house.
Really? I know the
what's your
modulars
definition
on
of less?
They're really not.
No, I'm
Less
telling
money
you what,
or less quality?
Less money.
Okay, I agree.
They're pretty doggone spicy.
Yeah.
I happen to be looking into houses right now.
I looked into one
It's not
before I
cheap.
moved, and it was,
Not big savings.
I would have spent at least 200 grand.
It's
Talking about
nuts.
the property.
They're
and
making
foundation and everything.
big money.
Okay, that needs to be dialed in for sure.
Yes, sir.
Section 517.
That's still, 517, both of those comments are in that manufactured housing district.
oh,
The parking requirement, I'm saying, just should be the same as whatever zoning district, which is 2 off-street parking spaces and at least a 400 square foot garage.
Everything you put here is stuff we don't have, right?
Right.
Okay, right.
Right. And then signs in that district, or for manufactured housing district, should be the same as whatever we allow in R1, R2, any other residential zoning district.
Okay. All right, section 6.1. Eliminate B2 altogether when it comes to secondhand stores.
Yeah, that item 2, goods sold shall consist of 90% new merchandise. Policing that is gonna be next to impossible. And
You'll look good in the witness stand.
yeah, thanks. As we get torn up. I'm not going into some store and saying, is this new, is that new? Is it? If we don't want secondhand stores, let's say so. And if that's what we're trying to avoid here, I don't know if that's what we are or not, but
Just
but
say-
St. John has Goodwill.
sure they do. Yeah. So does
We've got
Dyer.
cleaner.
So-
Secondhand stores could be like on the square in Crown Point. I mean.
Yeah.
Right,
you know,
antique shop.
This is
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So I don't know why this was ever in here, but we just should eliminate that sentence altogether. It's just,
Are you talking about eliminating secondhand, just say no to the 90%,
I'm-
or no to secondhand stores altogether?
no, I'm just saying, let's eliminate that item 2 in section B. Goods shall consist of 90% new merchandise.
yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
just get rid of that whole sentence. It's just not enforceable.
Oh, it's not. No.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Can we get rid of the secondhand stores altogether?
No.
No.
Get rid of that secondhand road.
Depends what are you
That's even
snobby?
worse than.
Didn't
90%
Prince
rule.
sing about a secondhand store?
Oh, gosh.
Sing it for us, John.
Oh, my God.
Hey, the gleaners,
Raspberry.
when somebody has a fire, the gleaners let them people come in and they give them clothes and stuff.
And
help
the
them
gleaner,
out.
and the
I would
gleaners,
be totally against eliminating.
Oh, yeah, we're not, Bob.
We're not, we're not.
can we eliminate the number of them?
Stop it.
All right, sorry.
All right, we're rolling.
661,
Yeah, and I,
six, yeah,
yes, sir. And I kind of have to apologize for its location here. This actually occurs in Title 20 of the existing zoning ordinance where we have two sentences, and Dave and I had a chance to briefly discuss this the other day, but we have one sentence that says you can only have one primary building on a lot. And that's followed by a sentence that says you can only have one primary use on a lot. So let's take, just for example, Dick Hen's remodeling of the guards cleaners. He's gonna take that building that was a one-use structure and he's gonna divide that into 3 units. I don't understand why we would send that before the BZA to have more than one primary user in that. You've got a whole list of allowable uses in each of your commercial zoning districts. So if that's B2, for example, which I think it is, I'm not positive, but if it's B2, then you just let those list of uses determine what can go in there. I don't know why we would want to send that a multi-tenant user before the BZA. Certainly if it's a use that's not allowed in that zoning district, absolutely understand that. That's a special exception or it's a use variance or whatever you want it to be. But just for the fact that there's going to be 3 users in there instead of 1, I don't see why you want to bring that before the BZA. And Dave and I had a brief discussion about that.
so with that space in mind, the smoke shop next door wants to move into one of those spaces, okay? Now you don't have the same use. You got a different use, even though it's allowed there. How do the other tenants in that building, what say do they have?
They don't, Jerry. If it's an allowable use, if you've determined by your list of allowable uses in each of your zoning districts that that's an allowable use in that building, the next door neighbor tenant shouldn't have anything to say about that. It's you've determined, the town, I'm saying, has determined what the allowable uses are.
The only thing that'll be regulated will be the site plan for the new business within the space. There'd be an occupancy required.
There'd be an occupancy required. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that makes sense, Rick, because then if it got rented, if it meets the district's description, the guy moves in.
If it's a nail salon.
Yep.
Or if it's a tobacco shop and they're both allowed in that zoning district, why are we?
Right.
And you don't know, I mean, we don't know right now what Dick is proposing for those.
Yeah,
So
he probably
we have
doesn't
no
either.
idea.
He's
I
gonna
don't
build
think
it,
he does.
spec it out, hope he gets
Yeah.
somebody to rent it.
So I don't know why we're doing that.
I agree with that comment. I think you're right. Spot on.
But again, that's in Title 20 of the current zoning ordinance. And I'm just proposing that I'm fine with one principal building per lot. I think most communities probably have that regulation, David, unless it's a PUD.
Right.
But one primary use, you just let your list of uses prevail.
Right. Yeah, I think there's a gentleman in the audience sitting behind you that wants to someday build a building. So he's probably loving that statement because if you meet
take
the
that
requirement, you meet it.
Guards,
Yeah.
cleaners there.
Yes, sir.
All right, that was a single use building.
Mhm.
Now it's gonna be divided up into 3 uses.
Right.
All right, does he need to get a different permission? Because you're gonna have 3 separate businesses in it? Or can he just go ahead and divide it with the proper permits for construction? Divide it and make it into 3 units?
He can do just that. Yes, he can do
Yes,
that.
he doesn't have to come.
He just needs a building permit for that. Now, as you, I think, know, he's coming for, in his case, he has to go through site plan approval. He has to go through subdivision plating approval because it's not a subdivided lot. And he's going to need a couple of variances. So he's going to be before the plan commission for a few things, and he's going to be before the BZA for some things. But
Here's before one of us.
it shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't be for having multiple users in there. comes the day that he wants to put a use in there that isn't allowed under that zoning district, then absolutely comes before the
Yeah.
BZA for a use
Yeah,
variance or
I'm good
special
with that.
exception or-
Yeah.
And
Right.
you get full scrutiny review at the BZA
Yes.
for the use of the use, if you will, as permitted.
So 6,
Well,
9 is
tonight's
next.
probably not the night, as it's getting late. The whole business permit conversation should probably be held as well at some point. We've been talking about this, monitoring business and businesses requiring permits and all that stuff for years. And
Yeah.
we haven't made any traction on that.
Okay.
So what is 9 now? 6, 9, section
Sexual
B1A.
exemption. Mhm.
It's supposed to be.
6, 9.
Be consistent with the language we already talked about. For special exemption.
You're in the, let me see. I'm sorry, yeah, so in section D, we're in the, chapter 6, page 9.
Mhm.
Oh.
D, yeah.
That I have to. Excuse me just a second.
So yeah, you have B3 written at the top of 1. Section D, number 1. Rick, you have the word in the second sentence of appeals and are subject to any conditions placed upon B3, handwritten in on our document you handed us.
Right.
The section D1A language should say B3 if it is be consistent with language and intent in chapter 6, page 3, section D1A.
Right.
Chapter 6, page 3.
It means the B2 changed to B3. I
Yeah.
think that's what it is,
Yeah.
John. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any use permitted in community business B3 zoning district instead of B2.
Instead of B2,
Chapter 6.
to be consistent.
Yes. Yeah, it just needs to be changed to B3.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's the accessory building
Yeah,
again, 619.
That's raised its ugly head again, so that's just a repeat.
That's because Clear Lake had lots of accessory buildings back in the day. People lived in them. Little wood burners, no windows.
Storage.
Clarence Beach, above, behind, and next to Chuck Spear, Jerry's neighbor.
You can say what you want, guy. You'll
Good
help
guy.
you'll help anybody anytime.
Oh, yeah, good guy. No, I know him well.
Yeah, we just, in 622, we don't have bulk and lot requirements in that zoning district, David, in the conditional development type A zoning district. And we don't have it in conditional district type B zoning district. So we need to look into creating the bulk standards, which is the height, the width,
Oh, okay.
the lot
Okay.
size, those
Yeah.
types of things. So we need to create those. That was it.
Okay.
First part of chapter 6, page 22. First 2 paragraphs, what's,
Uh-oh. What did I miss, Chuck?
Buttock, female breast.
products, female breasts, and then human genitals, and say sexual stimulation or arousal?
Why?
Yeah, I mean,
Those are probably in our ordinance under some type of a business,
Oh, boy.
but you don't have page 21 to explain it.
We're just missing the preface to it. so
Yes, we are.
the page that was like,
Yeah, we need page.
That's a good way to end this
We need
meeting.
page 20 and 21.
2021.
that is a good way to.
John says he's got to go.
They
Was
were.
that seeing if we were paying attention to it? or-
Yeah. I wasn't even paying attention to that, Chuck.
Who's reading this? At
Yeah.
least we got all the even number pages.
Yeah, and every community has this language to cover those possibilities that we can't necessarily prevent.
These match up to the case law.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, it's a case law.
Yeah, that's,
You aren't gonna
I
find this
see.
in a book. It, you know,
I love it.
it is. This matches the case law.
yeah, so. Oh, just a general question, or just a couple of general things on that second sheet that just has 4 items on it. Where we have maximum building height in all of our zoning districts, I'm not sure why we say 2 stories or 30 feet, 2 stories or 35 feet. We should, if you can get 3 stories and 30 feet, why, if 30 feet is what we want to do, is limit the maximum height. I don't know why we care whether that's a 1-story, 2-story, or 3-story.
Agree.
I think there was some discussion quite recently, Cedar Point Park.
Yeah.
With that height
I was here. For
and
that.
the floor joists
Mhm.
being of different material.
Mhm.
You can squeeze some from the first floor, you can squeeze some from the second floor, and then you
Right.
can have the third floor.
Right. And I talked to Tim about that, and I said, now, I want to make sure, because to me, I always think of a story as being 10 feet tall. And he said, yeah, that's basically right, with the floor joist
Right.
and the ceiling joist and the 8-foot, typical 8-foot ceiling in
Right.
between, you're talking about a 10-foot. So if you're allowing a building to be 30 feet tall, and you can get 3 stories in it, why do we care whether it's 2-story or 3?
Or a 1.
Why, or 1, yeah.
Build a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, why not just let the maximum height?
Be the maximum height. I agree with that.
I agree, but ask him about that. You already talked to him about it?
Yeah. I did.
Okay,
Because I wanted to make sure you could get 3 stories comfortably in
Yeah.
a 30 foot
feet.
building, and he said, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's almost going to go down the path of, you have to build it this way in order to do it.
I think you have to
You have to use
maintain 8-foot ceilings.
Yeah, and you're gonna have
Yeah,
a
that's
flat
right.
roof.
And then so that what balances
Yeah,
the
but
rest of
I
that is,
meant you'd have engineered joists.
Yeah.
And you had to have, we're not gonna get any problems with people with specifying something that,
Yeah, they have to meet the building code, so, yeah, we're not gonna let them put 2x6s in where they need 2x8s or something.
no,
Right.
but for example, you get an engineer's beam at 9 inches as opposed to 11 and a half. We're, by saying what we're saying, we're also directing them into, you have to build it with this type of material. We're not gonna get into
Well,
that situation, are we?
Tim said you can do it with standard construction, Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
3 stories in a 30-foot building, standard construction, yeah. That's what I wanted to be sure of.
okay.
So what's the roof?
Roof will be flat. You're gonna have a flat roof, but,
Wow. That's
but yeah,
big.
the height is what you're concerned about, not whether it's 2 stories or 3 stories or a
Yeah.
single.
Yeah,
But what's the height of that house next to Doug Spencer? And does the walkout basement not count as the
Well,
height?
that was Tim's
That's
concern
my
too.
argument.
You usually take the measurement from the average grade around the house. So in a walkout, you wouldn't take it from the walkout.
Right.
You might not take it from the front of the house, but some point in between.
Gotcha.
All right, we already addressed number 2. Number 3, Dave, is the cottage legacy lots that we'll address at some point in time, but I think we need to do that so we can preserve those homes that are among us. And then, David, I don't know why this, in the draft, chapter 13, page 3, we only give ourselves, the council, 30 days to act on a special exception or use variance. Otherwise, it's approved. As you know, the statute gives us 90 days. So I don't know why we limited ourselves like it. It's just,
Typo.
yeah, it just got to be, it should be 90 days. Yeah, okay.
We should
Okay.
mirror these statutes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry
That
to
would
take that
that
much
would
time.
certainly make for thorough vetting of things.
Yeah, you got to put it on fast. You miss a meeting, you're
No, I
in
meant
trouble.
make it 90.
oh, yeah. In here, in one part of I read, where it says continuance of meeting. And my question is there a difference between having it deferred or having it continued?
David, is there a legal difference in that terminology, deferred versus continued?
No, they're the same. They're synonymous. Tabling or the tabling bears some significance in relationship to Robert's rules.
That's a very strict thing to do because then you gotta pull it back off the table.
It's a
in
very
order-
strict thing. You know.
Hey, Rick, you gave
Bob's
us,
right.
you
Bob's
gave
right.
us this planning application. Is that just so we could see it? Or did that happen to be?
It's part of the rules and regulations, the last page, the second to last page. in
Oh,
there,
yeah.
the ones that you-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you
that
just,
is- That is, it's part of this document, we just can't do.
because this one doesn't say BZA on it. Why is that?
Because the only time
This is the planning commission.
CBA will have its own.
Oh,
rules
okay,
and
so
its
you
own
didn't-
form.
Gotcha. I'm sorry.
And again, for those of you that are on the BZA, we'll be asking you to revise those rules in an upcoming meeting as well. Very, the same as what you see in front of you.
If I'm in town, I'm gonna come, guys. I want to see that on this. BZA too.
Thank you very
Don't-
much
No,
for your
whoa, whoa,
patience.
don't run off.
Oh, I won't.
No, don't run off. Don't run off.
I just looked at the statute. There's no executive secretary for advisory plan commission.
Okay, so just secretary?
It's just secretary.
Okay, so it's a secretary that you, and it's not, it can be the recording secretary, I
Can be.
yes,
They
but
can
it typically is not.
It typically is.
But since we can appoint a recording secretary outside of the commission,
Yes, you can.
you're appointed.
Terry is it. So
When I dashed out of here, we were on that italicized, highlighted, Eric Bold print, 6-1.
Yeah.
I know we have a list of things, nail shop, massage parlor, all those things that fit certain categories. If it's not written, if it doesn't match, who decides whether it fits or not?
That's a great question, Jerry. Usually, and I'm sorry, I didn't.
Because if
check
it
that.
doesn't match, they probably should be in here.
So let me try to give an example. Let's say, let's say a nail salon or a hair salon.
Right.
And the ordinance says nail salon. If you're asking me if I would allow a hair salon there, in a heartbeat, I'd say yes, absolutely. So
And I agree.
it's usually, and David, I don't remember if the language is in here. Usually it says or similar use, this list or similar use. And I think we have that, and
does say
as
that.
determined by the building administrator, I think.
It does say that.
Yeah, so in this case, then that, it would be Michelle as building administrator, if I'm remembering that language correctly. Do you think that's what it says, Joe? I believe that's what it says. So
Okay.
it does give staff some latitude to do that. But if it says nail salon and a tattoo parlor wants to come in, no. In my opinion, I would say no, they're not.
Well, those
Similar
are
uses.
closer than the example I'm going to give you.
Okay.
Let's talk about the laundromat again.
Okay.
Somebody wants to just do a drive-through only in the back on the west side of that building, drive-through, grab coffee.
Okay.
That certainly could create all kinds of extra traffic. And if the other tenants can't say anything about it, and it's going to could cause other issues, I'm kind of thinking that should show up at the BZA also.
And you may have language like that, Jerry, because here's what the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the zoning districts on either side of it. Let's say it's B2 again. And we look for the list of allowable uses and it's not there. We'll look at B1 and see if it's there. Because anything in B1 is automatically allowed in B2. We have, not consecutive, what's the word for that, Dave?
Sequential.
Yeah, zoning district. So B1 is the most restrictive
Progressive.
zoning district. Yeah. B2 is a little more wide open, and B3 allows everything that's in 1, 2, and 3. So we'll look at those. So if it's not allowed in B2, we'll see if it's allowed in B1. If it's not allowed there, we'll see if it's allowed in B3. If it's a B3 use and it's B2 zoning district, it needs a use
BZA.
variance.
That has to go to
Yeah.
BZA.
So,
Yeah.
but if it's in none of those, then, okay, somebody's gonna have to make a judgment call. Is it a similar use to what's in that particular zoning district? And again, in the example I just gave you, I would say yes in one case and no in another. That would be my decision, but it's not my decision. I believe it's Michelle's as building administrator. If it's, and usually drive-throughs have that kind of language where you can have a restaurant in B2, but not a drive-through restaurant. Drive-through needs a special exception.
Right.
Oftentimes. So usually it's covered in the language, but there can be gray areas. And if that's the case, then Michelle can say, no, you're going to the BZA because I don't have confidence that this is a similar use to.
And those variables certainly are the traffic and or the parking.
Right.
Sure.
Well, take Starbucks, for example, Jimmy John's, the phone company, they can't stand that drive-through.
Yeah.
Because it distracts them getting in and out of their building in the back.
Absolutely.
It's
And Rosati's to an extent is
Yeah.
like that.
So
and those are the pieces that the things I don't want to have.
Yeah.
I prefer not to fall through the cracks.
And I would say that if it's not clear cut to Michelle,
Yeah.
then she's going to direct them to come to the BZA
Okay.
in those cases.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question on the job because that would be a bad place for a drive-through.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
Example.
I'm not saying any one person's not going to think about this in totality, but some of us
Covering
way past totality.
Whatever is covered in this initial document saves everybody late nights here at Thursday night BZA meetings, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, they all seem to be late night BZAs because, right? Yeah. Okay, with that said then, the item 3 here on these legacy lots. I understand regarding the legacy lots and the side yards and the front yards and the backyards and the lakeside, street side. Those, well, you Cedar Point Park again. What you're suggesting, Cedar Point Park, what you're suggesting in here is the Cedar Point Park have a number, so many feet, right?
What I'm saying is we may have to use percentages in a place like Cedar Point Park because the lots are so small. Maybe 12 feet, 8 feet doesn't work.
I want you to keep in mind that a lot of times petitioners are asking for this in hopes to just get this anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And that's been an MO for a long time. BZA members have been told by staff here, ask for more and negotiate down. That was just shared with me today on the phone.
Yep.
So with that said, if you do 4-foot side yards, somebody's going to ask for 2.
Yep.
I don't know that giving them any number is going to make it okay. You know, and on the next subject, I know you're all tired of listening, but you tell them you
Thanks,
have
John. Look out.
You tell them 4, they say okay 4, and then pretty soon there's a shed there. So we've gained nothing because now we still have no side yard. At the BZA, you could say you have to have 4 foot. That includes the air conditioner, condensing unit, and whatever else. Okay.
No, I've just been driving all day. I gotta stand.
All right. So I'm not sure there's a real good solution to this. And but again, you have more experience with this than I do.
That's a long night discussion on that subject.
It is.
Well, it is. I mean, there is no fast and dirty. We've had people stand there, tears running down their face. 10:30, because they want a 2-foot side yard because I can't have my dishwasher because the kitchen has to be moved. I don't know. I don't know that there's
not a good answer.
There's not a good answer. And what you're suggesting here, tell me if I'm wrong, is what the ministries is kind of suggesting also. They create their own PUD arrangement their new conceptual idea is to create, for the cottagers, create this, these setbacks and things like that.
The
So,
property.
so they don't have to show up at the BZA and do things like that also. Would save some headaches.
Well,
That's what they said.
yeah, I do, and I understand that, I do. I'm trying to be sensitive to those residents that do have homes on smaller lots, on these, what I'm calling the legacy lots, and it's not that I want to encourage them, but I don't want to make life difficult for them either, and I'm not sure where to find that balance. Maybe it is that, and I don't know what our smallest lot is that we have a house on, but I don't know if we have 25-foot wide lots that have a house on it. Does anybody know whether we do have something that small?
Probably there are.
I'm
there
sure we
might
have
be.
a couple.
I bet we could find a couple.
Yeah.
I'll bet so too.
So, so, you know,
Not many. 50
maybe,
foot
maybe
mostly.
the magic number's 4-foot side yards.
Yeah.
No more than that.
Yeah.
Rather than 10% of the lot width or
Right.
25% of the lot width. I
Right.
don't know that answer yet, Jerry, because I haven't looked into it as much.
And some of those will still have to go to the museum.
They will. Some will
That's
still
just
have.
part
to,
of the
yeah.
gig.
But the direction to the BZA could also be perhaps that, that 4 foot
Is
means 4 foot.
That's exactly right, Jerry. And when I've got more, like, because I spent more years in Dyer, I knew the BZA better than I did even in St. John and here yet. When I meet with a BZA petitioner, I'll go over what their request is and I'll find out what they want. And I'll say, particularly if I know my BZA, I'll say, look, there's not a snowball's chance in hell you're going to get this. You have every right to ask for it. So ask for what you want, but you better be prepared with plan B, because I'm telling you, I know the BZA is not going to allow this. So I don't tell them to ask for more, but I do tell them, I said, if that's what you want, you have the right to ask for it, but be ready, because I don't think they're going to grant it.
Yeah, I think Tim and Michelle, for the most part, share similar verbiage with petitioners, but some people are just gonna,
Yeah.
they're gonna roll the dice no matter what.
As David knows, we can't prevent somebody from coming in here and asking. Same at the plan commission level.
I got you.
You know, if somebody wants to build a Sears Tower on a 35-foot wide lot, they have the right to ask.
I
It's not
understand.
going to happen, but they have the right to ask. We can't tell them no. And sometimes I think we need to lead off plan commission meetings with a statement like that. If we have a room full of what we know are angry residents, or BZA, for that matter, just say, folks, you need to understand that we can't tell somebody they can't come here and ask.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Oh, well, I will.
What's that, Don?
Yeah, Don.
It's on the 30-foot lots.
30-foot lots.
30 foot? Okay, is the smallest lot?
Tiny. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, about 30. And there's houses on there that meet it. There's not much of a side yard, but they meet it.
No. Wouldn't think to do
Well, I'm
that.
I'm coming to the BZA to ask for all 30-foot lot subdivisions by 50-foot deep.
And you'll get told no.
Am I right?
You might have a snowball. You might have a snowball chance, and you know where to get out of here.
You can ask.
Get out of here on your own feet.
I love it.
On another note, because as my broken up emails to you have been flying around, and I'm not going to apologize for them because it's some of us are very, very thorough about some things. Where's the verbiage here? Special exception, special use variance. Okay. I've obviously been confused for a long time, and a whole bunch of us are also. Special use, special variance is special, which means everything else there doesn't apply. Are you suggesting in our emails and my confusion that the motions are not thorough enough to deal with those things that don't fit the minutes of the meeting? If this is the wrong place for this,
Yeah.
I'll stop. But but I need some clarification. I need some clarification on this.
Can we use a specific example? Are you okay with that?
Whatever example you want to use.
Okay, because the example that I was confused on when you and I were exchanging emails was the one, Govert Landscaping, and who's the other user in there? But right by,
Yeah.
on the
Lindbergh,
corner.
Lindbergh 133rd.
When you first sent me an email about that, you were concerned about, you said lighting and storage of certain
Yeah,
vehicles,
outside storage. Yeah.
outside storage.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I went out and looked at it during the day,
Right.
I did see what looks like wall pack lighting on the back of the building.
Right.
And I would say that it's probably angled about 45 degrees. Would you say, Jerry? It's not down. It's not.
No,
90
those are
degrees.
those are standard LED wall packs. Those are,
But
they're hideous. And there's pictures of those in the dark in this email system in this building somewhere. That's all I'm going to say about it. So go
okay.
ahead.
All right. But when they look to me like they're pointing at 45 degrees, and our ordinance requires them to be downward lighting. Right?
They're not in compliance.
Okay. But when I went there twice at night,
Right.
they weren't using them. So if they're not using them, they're
Yeah.
not out of compliance. I don't know if they're using them or not. So I'd be happy to reach out to them and say, you can't use that lighting, but I haven't seen them use it.
Okay, but they're brand new lights, and it's like the internet car lot. There's a handful of BZA items that a lot of us keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
The internet car lot, the arborvitae.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 8-foot arborvitae for the west property screening.
Right.
Okay, you said it doesn't say how many.
It just says
So
an 8-foot arborvitae. And I
for screening, but the word screening to me means the
Yeah.
same thing as street.
I agree. Yeah. And that's what we're going to make sure before they open, that they have
But
that screening.
they are open. They're on the internet. Nick from the BZA sent me the link. You can go on their website. You can have a car ordered there. I've seen the cars there.
Okay, because
I don't want to be I'm not the code guy.
Where
Okay.
is this at?
well, they can't.
Next to the old
they're
liquor
not.
store, Sunshine Liquor?
Just strictly south of Howe's Insurance.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
on the corner of that
Yeah.
road where houses.
So and again, and sometimes I send you emails
Uh-huh.
that are a little encrypted. And I
Where's the rumor?
I have to learn your language. I don't understand.
Well,
half of it, so, yeah.
Good luck
Thank
with
you.
that.
Thank you. I think I have to go to Dave. Dave's got to be my interpreter. Man, when I see your emails, I think, what am I missing?
Well, you
But anyway.
know, but Jerry's lived there his whole life, you haven't.
That's right.
That's the
But
difference.
anyway, Jerry, go ahead.
So you know, and that's to me, those aren't the answers. I want to know if I need to know that I need to know. I'd like to know that this is not falling off the radar. That's my concern, that these things fall off the radar.
Yeah.
And I know it's wintertime.
Yeah.
And that property at Lindbergh has a few more things to do.
Yes.
The internet car lot has a few more things to do.
Yeah.
I understand. But the Lindbergh property, 3 vehicles outside.
Mhm.
Okay. Vehicles,
No, Jerry, 3 parking spots is what it says. That's where I'm looking for. If the motion that approved it wasn't specific enough, then I go into the ordinance to see what can I use for enforcement. And I did find what I needed in that case.
and I'm begging you to go into the minutes.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. That's where I got the motion. Yeah. Michelle printed those off for me, and I looked at them and I said, it doesn't say what kind of vehicles can or cannot be parked in
Right.
those 3 spaces, just
Right.
that they had 3 spaces.
Right. But Govert's Landscaping is not the people who asked for the parking spaces in the back. It's the building next door. That's why I'm saying these minutes,
Well, it's the owner of the property, yeah.
the what?
It's the owner of the property that asked for the,
Yes.
Yeah.
So when does, and if it's, and with what you told me, well, it's zoned for certain things. Isn't that where we were going? You said he's allowed to have the camper because it's zoned for that.
What I said was that there didn't appear to be a prohibition against the camper being there. I did later find some language in the zoning ordinance that allowed me to I sent him a letter and said that the camper and the trailer can't be there. I did send that out. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I need to know if the BZA needs to be more thorough. So you and I aren't exchanging these,
Yes,
these pieces of, these correspondence.
And this is where I would turn to David, because David made some excellent points in that meeting about, in the discussion of, I believe, the business behind the liquor store.
Mhm.
But his comments didn't make it into the motion that was approved. And what I can enforce is the motion that was approved by the BZA.
That's what you and I thought.
Yeah.
And when I'm asking you as a petitioner, hey, you got all this junk there now, and you say, well, that's gone.
Yeah.
Well, that's gone, but there's more stuff there of the same junk.
Yeah.
So you said, okay, but it's not in the motion, so you don't have to abide by it. I mean, this doesn't even make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Because the whole premise of the approval is what you're agreeing to.
Right, but it does have to be in the findings of fact or the motion, what you're approving, because you can have 3 pages of discussion, but if the motion doesn't say, the petitioner says, okay, I'm not going to park boats there on the property.
Right.
But when you make the approval of the business, and you don't note that was as one of the conditions, and the town ordinance allows the parking of boats there, then my hands are tied. I can't enforce it. Doesn't matter what was discussed. Am I saying that right, David?
You are.
But hang on a minute. You're shaking your head, yes, except the cannot list would be endless with what he's saying. The old lumberyard.
Yeah,
We agree.
But how it happens in a public hearing is fluid. The dialogue between board and petitioner, perhaps others, is fluid. So that fluidity is occurring and commitments are being made. Exchange of consideration is being made in the course of it. We've seen it as recently as last night and 2 weeks ago with the schools. How fluid the dialogue is. Now, with that fluidity, there are commitments that are made. Those commitments, for example, the individual we're talking about said, that stuff's gone. Well, you relied upon that. You directly relied upon that in making an action, thinking he volunteered, that stuff's gone. Now, could we have been more articulate? I guess we could have been in saying, and volunteer of removal and departure of inappropriate vehicles or whatever. We could have added that, I guess. But that was a voluntary concession. And that was consideration for the motion. I can construe that to mean gone. And they agreed to do that for this motion being made.
Yeah. Now,
And that's,
now,
again, in a fluid situation, we see that all the time.
well, and that's my confusion is the cannot list is infinite. Again, you're agreeing to, you're shaking your head, John, but the old Cedar Lake lumber, order storage, I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
They everything finally came together and things are moving along, it looks like. They agreed to this, a few things. But nothing in the motion said you cannot have C boxes,
That or that or that.
C boxes or aluminum ingots
Yeah.
stacked up. So if the C boxes show up, stacked 4 high, to me, that's a cannot. Not a, the motion didn't say that. I mean, you understand?
I do, Jerry.
It's like the pet cemetery down here.
So
It doesn't say, nothing in your ordinance says we can't. So we can. I can't wrap my head around that.
We take that position with state statutes. If they're silent on something, we take that to mean we can do it. But
Depends on the, on the item though, in my opinion. I agree with you about the statutory.
Yeah.
But that's statutory. We're talking about
But-
our ordinance.
so if your motion,
What's a C box?
Storage.
Storage containers.
Okay, when we did the approval or whatever to the board with what he's talking about, Porter.
you had
storage
conditions
here,
in there.
We
What-
stated
You did.
boats, trailers, cars. We didn't
Hours of
say-
operation, you had
Yeah, but we
those
didn't
things
say
in there.
anything about C boxes, so I don't know how they can store them there because.
That's hypothetical.
It's hypothetical,
No, it's not
but John,
Hypothetical. We said in our motion that this is what you can store.
what you can store there. But if the town's ordinance allows C boxes, for example, and you didn't say they couldn't be there, then I believe I can't tell them they can't.
I don't believe that.
I disagree.
I don't
Spe-
believe
Dave
that.
just said
Spe-
that's correct.
Then what's the sense of us sitting up here
It
and
makes-
making a
Special
decision
means
if
special.
nobody's gonna stand behind it?
Well, John, it's because if it's allowed by town ordinance, then they don't even have to seek your permission. That's what I'm, that's.
But then I'm, my motion was to say, you
Huh?
can't
I'm
do
sorry?
anything that's allowed by town
Special,
ordinance.
special means special,
Stupid.
not special plus. You know, Don Olfant and I had a conversation about this afternoon too, because I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Mhm.
Mr. Kubiak and I have gone round and round about this before. Also,
Special
You
means
did-
above and beyond the rules.
but it's above, it's special use, which means the old rules don't apply. You're in here for special use.
But if it's zone B3,
It's industrial in that case, but
it's it's
Well,
M1,
I-
right? That means what he's saying is right.
No, if you came in for a special, the word special means special. When you come in for a special use, you're asking to deviate from what's there, not add to it. That's the part I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, and I think John is also, and most of the BZA members are having a problem with this.
But if it's zoned, in that case, I think that was zoned M1. But let's just call it B3.
Okay.
Okay. So it's zone B3 and B3 lists all these things, including a 24-hour stamping plant that can pound parts out.
Yep.
And make stampings or fabricated product. 24/7 operation, right?
Yeah.
If you don't specify that they can't do something, then it sounds like they can do everything else.
That's the part that's in, like John said, that's the insanity part. The Lindbergh property,
If it's zoned that way,
No, hang on. hang on, no, that's not what been in my head all this time we've been sitting here at these meetings.
Yeah.
That property in Lindbergh, 133rd,
Mhm.
part of that building is B3.
Part of it is. I remember
So,
from years ago.
so he comes in, asks for what he wants to do, and then pretty soon you're hearing milling machines running all night long. You can't say to the neighbors, no, that's okay, because it's B3. Nobody told them they couldn't. Rick, I can't wrap my head around that.
But if it's an allowable use there, Jerry, why, I'm not sure what you're not understanding about that. They don't even need to come to you for a special use. I don't know what they.
Once they come up there and say, we're seeking, and staff has directed them.
Okay.
We've come in here for special use.
Mhm.
Okay, that means what's this listed they're not interested in this.
No,
That goes over here.
only if it's
This-
B2 and you're giving them special use for a B3 type of thing. Just like his example earlier. If they have a B1 and you're giving special use in the B2, that's.
Then what's
allowed.
the point of the special?
Well,
There isn't.
that's a great question, Jerry. What triggered their need for a special use? I don't know that because I wasn't here for that. Why did they need? Because it was two businesses. It was two businesses on
Plus, it
one
was
lot.
B3, which they had to come in. Part of it was B3, so they had to come in for that also.
What, I don't know what you mean.
Don't all B3s have to come to BZA?
No,
No.
industrial, which is another thing we're gonna talk about, not
Okay.
tonight.
Right.
Another
It
time.
There was
But-
a use. There was a use.
Well, it was a landscaper, and what's the other use?
They were going to repair. They're going to do auto repair. Yeah.
what needed the special use? I
The
don't.
auto
Two
repair, I
business-
think, was
two
in the B2
businesses.
section.
No, the auto repair is in B3. It was two businesses that brought it here.
Right, okay, right.
And nobody had, and Mr. Gover does a great job and they're doing a lot of life improvements there. This is an example.
Okay.
This is just an example. When you ask for special permission to do something, obviously what's there doesn't fit what you want to do. So you were looking for an exception from what's
Yes, sir.
on paper.
Yes.
Which means you don't get this too when the deal's done. You don't get to do this also. That's the part I'm confused about.
Yes, you get to do whatever's allowed in that zoning district.
Can you imagine?
Everything.
Can you imagine the monotonous?
Here's the problem I have a lot of times. If there's a derelict building in a B3 zone, if I buy that building, I should be able to do anything on that B3 list. I bought the building, I own it.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
I don't need anything from the town.
Right.
That's how I
Building
look at it.
permits, but yeah, I mean, you may not need any kind of,
I don't need
Yeah.
permission to do anything in B3.
but you're,
But you didn't come to the podium and ask for a special. That's my point.
I think what
Right.
Jerry's thinking, and he asked me about this earlier,
Mhm.
and I kind of agreed with him, but the way I'm looking at it now, hearing this, is that you have 10 things you can do here.
Mhm.
Okay, but I want to make golf clubs, and I can't make them there.
Okay.
Okay, so I come for the BZA and say, I need a special use to make golf clubs.
Yep.
In this
Mhm.
B3 zoning, whatever the heck
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they say, good, John, granted. But at the same time, I can still do 3 or 4 or all the other 10 things that
are allowed in B3.
are allowed in there
Yes, sir.
by special uses, because what I wanted to do would not allow me to
Bingo.
do it there.
Exactly.
So the special use is allowing me to add
Above and
that
beyond.
to those 10. So now I have 10 different manufacturing items I can do.
Yeah, if you decide to not do
Is that-
golf
is that
clubs, but you
correct?
decided to make pillows that are allowed, then you don't need it.
So my assumption is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So anything in B1 can be done in B2. Anything in B1 and B2 can be done in B3.
Yeah.
And anything in B3 can be done in B3.
Yeah.
Including all the stuff in B2 and B1.
Yeah.
That's how I always.
So-
think about it.
So, but of course, remember that
Subject to all the other terms of the zoning ordinance.
all the other terms of zoning.
Inclusive of not more than one principal business.
And you can attach reasonable conditions, the statute says reasonable conditions, to any of your recommendations or approvals. So if you put those limitations in there, and remember, that had a list of covenants, I don't know, a page and a half long for that particular one. So you covered a lot of ground there, and you were thorough. But you're not, Jerry, you guys have a tough job, both Plan Commission and BZA. You can't cover everything.
All right, one more
So-
question on that.
Well, there's gonna be different language coming to both of your boards from me that's going to describe a limitation on what the use can be, period, by virtue of the application being made. And the petitioner's gonna be sitting there, and you're gonna be able to interrogate and inquire and make sure you aren't getting one story and 2 months later there's a new business there, or 3 months later there's another business there permitted in the zoning district classification, so that this confusion and understanding or lack of understanding, doesn't matter, is clarified. Because this has been a big issue here.
And as Dave knows, if I'm gonna go enforce something, I've got to have something behind me that allows me.
Hey, listen, I
Okay,
don't
now-
want you going to a gunfight with a knife. I mean, I really
Yeah.
don't.
Now I'm making golf clubs here with my special use variance.
Mhm.
All right, now I want to make pillows, which is allowed there.
Yeah.
Do I have to come before the BZA because I'm doing 2
Right
different?
now you do, but we just had that discussion tonight, and I'm saying that if you're gonna have more than one business, more than one primary use in a building, as long as they're allowed uses, you shouldn't have to come to the BZA for that. Let your list of allowed uses determine that. You shouldn't have to come because you're gonna have more than one business on a lot.
Right.
It's just, is it an allowable use or is it not an allowable use? That's the question. And that is what should determine whether you come before the BZA.
Well, this guy down the street here with the bicycle shop, he came in here because he wanted to do U-Haul out of there too.
Yeah, right up here at Morse where the
Yeah, right
Yeah,
by the,
yeah.
by the ground.
Morse and Constitution.
Yeah, with the great big huge
Yeah.
bicycle sign on it. And we gave him a lot of static about having two different businesses and what have you. But if those were both allowed there under what we're talking about now, he could have went ahead and did it.
Yes, yes.
Correct.
Should be able to go ahead and do
100%.
it. Absolutely.
I
mean,
think that
it's like
U-Haul
telling,
rental was like auto repair shop, so I think it was normally a B3, and that was a B2.
to me, it's like telling
why
you
he
that you
had to
can't
come
move
here.
into your single family home until you have a variance. I don't understand.
No, they're not, that's not.
It's
That's not a
simplistic.
good example.
But it's-
Well, I'll give you an example. You're making golf clubs. And and you say, you know what? I can make a bunch of money, put a dozen sea boxes here. Cargo containers. You know why? Because it doesn't say I can't. Those are the things that
But if it's allowed,
but it doesn't say, hang on, I'm going down another topic now.
Okay.
It doesn't say you can't. Cedar Lake Ministries, they asked for a climbing wall along 137.
Okay.
They retracted it once,
COVID. Primarily because of COVID, wasn't it?
No.
No,
Oh, no,
no, that was your zip line.
was
That was your
before.
zip line.
Yeah, but anyway,
They pulled it. Went ahead and built something similar farther north on the same piece of property that had no permission for that use. Well, it's okay that it's there because we never told them they couldn't. It's a structure. It's in the ground. It's made out of treated climbing wall. Same thing, but different. And Rick and I have been going around about that.
well.
I called it a deer stand because that's what it looks like.
They had to come in for a permit, right?
No,
No.
oh, no. There's
That's what-
permits. Those pole buildings have permits.
Yeah.
And on a piece of property that has no PUD, no nothing. That's why the climbing
No,
wall got pulled.
Jerry,
Yeah, but
that
that's
property's part of the
not Our
PUD.
problem, that's,
That wooded acreage is part of the original PUD. The 91, 93, the 91, 93. it's
Okay, you're
actually-
talking about
but the enforcement is not our problem.
No, it's.
We don't enforce.
Right.
No, but
Police
They
department.
do.
I don't think that is part of it. I've seen the plat and I've seen it in the last week.
The property
from
surrounding,
93, sure.
the property surrounding the campground.
Yeah.
Was there's nothing for that. It's 38 40 acres, it's called.
That was in that drawing.
Well,
Yeah.
let's, while I'm on the subject.
Yeah.
Let's, what we were told they were gonna bring here last December when the zip line came up,
Mhm.
before the COVID thing really dropped on us, was PUD for everything.
Okay.
Now they're bringing and that was a PUD started with the property, the 40 acres, the DVG had just finished surveying, which is the 40 acres that was never in anything that anybody could find. Now we're going down this road of setbacks for cottages. I'd like to see the PUD for the campground. I'd like to see the PUD for the businesses in general that exist in there. Because I don't think some of that's being followed either. I mean, I don't think, anybody can rent a boat slip down there. Tim's gone down that road with portable bathrooms.
Mhm.
So,
Which he made them remove, yeah.
so what they told us they were going to bring next year, 2021, is not what we heard. Is not what I heard 2 weeks ago on Zoom. Now we're over here doing this. We need to make sure we have it all together.
Yeah, and I think that 93 ordinance did that. I'll double check that, Jerry, but I'm positive that what you call the North Woods and that is in
Right.
that 93
In the recorded
plan.
3 pages, their
Yeah, there's a
development
three
plan.
sheets, Mylars. I thought I sent that
That
to
was the
you.
conversation we had when they they were asking for that dang zip line, was that there was nothing for that whole area.
They,
So
they,
maybe they didn't know.
they stood, they stood here and said,
They
they went to
for
the
sure
county, they have nothing.
And
2
when they
weeks-
were in
2
front of
weeks
us,
ago-
they had nothing. They knew nothing.
2
Which is
weeks,
why we told them they needed something.
they needed something.
Yeah.
Has somebody found something?
Yeah.
Yes.
Their
I-
development plan is on that Mylar. The Mylar was not recorded until 2006
Right.
from a 1993 plan that explains everything they were doing in their development. plan.
In the entirety of their grounds, Jerry. Yes.
So has everything that they've
So-
done since then fit what they said was going to be?
Yes.
And since 2000,
So Bob has only got here in both of those years. Right, Bob?
Well, yeah,
but when you look at the GIS, it kind of looks like it separates it.
Well, it wasn't even
there's-
going back to Bob though. 2 years ago, when they were talking about the zip line, they sat here and said they didn't have anything for
Yeah,
that area.
those folks there don't know and didn't know.
And it's
And we didn't know either until last week, Rick and Jill. and
Jerry, if I
Tim
didn't
and
send that to you, I'll send it to you. I got it, the guys at Public Works now have a scanner that will scan that, and they scanned and emailed me those. And I thought we sent those out to the whole plan commission.
This
no?
is this is a PUD.
Rick, I think you just sent out an email with the ordinance numbers, but I don't think we actually sent out the ordinance itself and the plan development sheet.
Okay, I will send that to you. It's a big file. It's a huge file because it's a drawing. But yeah, it shows everything.
Just bring it to the next meeting. We don't need it. It's eating
Okay.
up memory for no reason.
Oh, it's a big, they're big, but they're the 24 by 36 inch sheets, and it's a recorded development plan for that whole entire property.
It's not a development plan or a PUD contract that we
Don's
have
got it up
been
there.
using currently. So it's in a different format than we have,
Yeah,
we
that's
have
it.
seen in recent years.
It should be shared on the screen.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Oh, it's way too late to get in that right now.
Yeah, I got it.
But this is another subject for another day, probably.
I think it's done over there now.
There's no more property than that, is there?
Or did they buy more of that field, Jared, to the west of it?
They own all of it.
Right, all the way to the tracks, but
All the
does
way to the
that
tracks,
show
and
the
they
track?
have-
And the development plan is all listed here. in
Yeah.
the recorded document.
Yeah.
Which also includes all the parking and the campground.
Yeah,
Show where the tracks are.
Yeah, where's the track?
Bottom of the, go back to the picture, Don.
This is something wrong here.
There's the tracks right there. So that's
Well, I
all
get
their
you.
property, right?
Yeah, I guess it
Mylar
is.
is actually on the
Where's the railroad tracks at?
Show them the railroad track. Yeah. The bottom of the picture. So that's all their property that goes over the railroad track. That's all that 40 acres you talked about.
Yeah, so it's, we're looking at it. We're not north-south, Jerry.
Yeah, I
That's
got
the
you.
tracks.
To the left.
Those are the tracks.
Probably
So-
doggone.
And in their description, they said recreation in that 40 acres. So, because it says recreation, if they play softball there and it doesn't say they can play softball, am I supposed to tell them they can't? Am I supposed to tell them they can't play soccer there?
So
Because it doesn't specifically
so-
list it in the PUD? I mean,
well, there's few pieces to this. It says recreation.
Okay.
Okay. Except there's pole buildings built, maintenance buildings built,
and.
heavy equipment being stored there.
Alright.
Heavy equipment being stored there.
Okay.
So is that part of recreation?
No.
Okay, well, I
Isn't the pole building, I know they have permits for it, but I think they list the storage.
no, they do have permits.
I know they have permits, yeah. But. Yeah, I don't.
You know,
I can't do it on that.
we'll talk about this some other time, Rick, I guess. Because to have nothing and in 2 weeks have a total understanding,
Well, I'll
I'm
use
a
the
little,
trailer park. We made those guys come up with covenants.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Somebody told me, man, that place is trashy, nothing's being followed. I don't know if it's true or not. Somebody told me that. So that isn't our problem. That's our ordinance folks enacting the rules. That's what
The owners,
this applies.
the
It would
owners,
be three
the
steps.
owners were going to do, once this was gone, it's gone. Once this is gone, it's gone. There's not that many gones. The one's covered in vinyl siding. I know what you're, I know what
Yeah,
you're talking, I know what you're talking about. This is different. It's a huge piece of property.
Yeah.
It's being used for anything and everything. And again, 2 weeks ago, we have nothing. Now we have a total understanding. And I'm really confused.
Jill said after that meeting, she said, nobody's ever asked me where this stuff is. She found it the next day. The
Yeah.
next day she found this stuff. 'Cause she was never
Because
asked.
Because if you look at the history, recently I would be looking for a PUD contract like we're used to looking at, or some type of agreement that we're used to looking at that defines everything. This was approved back in the 90s, so searching paper and searching the Mylars, it's recorded right on the Mylar. It's just not in the format we're used to looking at, I think, is what it was. So we were looking for something that, a text copy, and here it was recorded here.
So the campground is on there also? And the criteria for the campground's on there?
Parking spaces. I would have to pull the Mylar
Yeah,
to
the RV
be.
parking spaces, the building associated with it, yeah, all that.
We actually found it when we were doing the zoning map changes. Michelle was starting to go through all the individual ordinances that had zoning changes from like 20 years ago. And she found this when we were kind of searching around for some other properties in the general vicinity.
So Heather, 2 years ago when they came in, a year ago when they came in at the zip line, 2 years ago when they were here for something else, they didn't need to come in and ask us about a zip line, did they?
I don't think so, Jerry, not
Unless,
from what I've seen.
unless it was a permanent structure in the ground. And they need a
Tim's
permit.
recollection was that it came for a height variance because it was 34 feet. But that's not what I saw in the record. The record seemed to be that they were doing it as a use, a special use.
Right.
Rather than a height variance. But
Right.
his recollection was it was going up 34 feet, which exceeded the 30-foot maximum or
Yeah.
something. So he thought that's why it was there, but
Well, we're having these activities, recreation. It's a business use. There's no parking lot. There's no stormwater. The stormwater, and Don and I've talked about this too, the stormwater patch right now is exactly what it is. All that property to the north, as I've mentioned to you, as the woods are cleared, there's ravines running to the lake. There's stormwater things that should be dealt with. Back in 2015, Doug Wolf and I spent a long day around town looking at all kinds of things, stormwater things. And I remember him saying that, yeah, this is going to have to be dealt with.
and this is our opportunity to do it. I'm excited about this because this.
Well, I am too, but I want to make sure it's right.
Oh, yeah, and so does, that's not God, I'm pointing at Don.
Yeah.
Don's the one.
You're close.
Yeah, I was close, yeah.
One and the same. Just a
Don-
syllable
Don is
off.
gonna make sure it's done. I'm excited about this, Jory. This is the
I don't know
chance for
about
us to kind of wipe the slate clean.
Well,
I
it's just
think.
one, it's just backwards and.
Get. I don't know.
Well,
Better relationship, I don't know.
I hope your wish comes true. Because as I said, there are no new problems around here. There's just new people. And, okay, I'm done on my rant. All right. Anybody got anything else?
I have one more thing.
Yes.
No, it's just a quick to finish out your agenda. On the 2 letters of credit on here,
Sorry about that.
they will be expiring in May. Don is already working on them. We're anticipating rolling over to maintenance letters of credit. So with the weather, there's a couple things we have to wait for the snow goes away to inspect.
That'll be June.
Who's we?
June.
Don, you can get this done by next meeting, right?
If there's not 2 feet of snow on the ground.
All right.
We'll just do a
Oh,
special public
excuses,
meeting.
Don,
Okay.
excuse, but this is just a month before they expire.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody's
See you
leaving.
later.
I guess meeting's over.
That'll be a quick meeting.